Hello everyone and welcome to GPVWC. This is the Superleague Championship and round 13 at the Marina Bay Street Circuit, the newly configured Marina Bay Street Circuit with an extra overtaking opportunity that hasn't been seen before. My name's Caitlin Penny, providing you with the cameras and pictures you're seeing today is Szymon Frelik, but joining me in the commentary box for the first time ever with GPVWC is Toby Davis. Toby, how are you doing today?
I'm very well. Well, first time in Super League for me anyway. It's been a fun season so far. Obviously, I've got Nocturne is my team, and they're racing in this championship, so I'll be following them closely. But I don't know if you guys have been watching my Super Lights broadcasts of this season, but I tend to be fairly unbiased, so I'll carry that over today. But I'm very much looking forward to this one. Should be a lot of fun, Caitlin.
Absolutely. Now, just to be fully upfront about it, I take it you are in fact the Nocturne team principal.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Which, of course, means that we're replacing another team principal, with Ryan Elliott being unavailable to this day. So I personally think we're just filling our quota of different team principals, making sure that we're fully unbiased. But there you go. For the start of the qualifying session we go now, and just to update you of a few things that happened since the last race, and before we go into this qualifying session, there were a couple of penalties after the last race. Unfortunately, Toby, your drivers, Adam Maguire and Ruben Machete, were affected. They were both given time penalties as a result of incorrect rejoin procedures. And as a result of that, both lost a place, so that meant that Jacques ended up moving up 2 positions. But the most surprising thing, penalty-wise, was actually that Jarl Tyen, who we saw coming into contact with Matthias Moos during the last Grand Prix, was not protested, not even protested, let alone given a penalty for his incident with Matthias. Now that's very important, of course, because that means that Jarl Tyen's win actually does stand. And I have to admit, as much as it was a good win, I was fully expecting a penalty to come his way. And I think that if that was reported, it would have been a slam dunk. What do you make of that, Toby? And why do you think it wouldn't have been protested?
I mean, I have to say, you know, Moose is not exactly fighting for a championship. If it had probably happened to one of my drivers, I suspect we would have reported it. You know, and obviously THR being the sister team of Nocturne, I suspect they would have done the same thing. You know, so. With Moose not being, I mean, the other thing about Moose is that he dropped out of contention entirely, so he had nothing. It's not like he finished P2 and had something to gain from it. So you know, at that stage of this stage of the season anyway, it's probably just in his mind better to just let it go as Mashuli, or as Lino, sorry, is round at the final corner. That'll wreck his first lap.
Sorry, so as we continue on with this qualifying session, we're 2 minutes in now. This is Chris Shepherd we're riding on board with. It was very Lance Stroll style movement from Giuseppe Lino, but luckily without so much of an overcorrection, so he should be able to get back to the pits and then head out again. So this in fact is the 13th round of the season, meaning we're closing in to the very end. So let's run you briefly over the championship standings. It's getting very tight up in front. Jake Denahan just 3 points ahead of Tom Stevens at the head of the field. So those two are absolutely neck and neck. And of course, Jake had a real blip in the last race, only coming home 7th, which is his worst result of the season so far, if you of course ignore the Spanish Grand Prix, where he wasn't able to start, and that's a mistake from Shepherd, unfortunately so, because that was looking to be a good lap. Jan Grangqvist is 3rd in the championship after his 5th podium finish. Then it's Robin Pansar in 4th position, Jakub Lalu 5th, and then Watt, Maguire, Stepkowski and Schluter make up the top 10. Jarl Tyen is the only other driver who has a victory, having won his at the last Grand Prix, although that was his only Grand Prix of the season so far, and as a result, he is only 19th in the championship. And unfortunately, Jarl is not driving today. His seat is once again taken up by Igo Boone. Anyway, Tom Stevens about to cross the line, goes P1, so one of the drivers in the championship battle is already at the top of the times.
Yeah, I'm looking at the sector splits. Jake Denahan's on a very quick lap, as is Adam Maguire, who goes P2, but a 27.5 from Jake Dennehan puts him provisional pole. That is exceptionally fast. That's a good couple of tenths faster than anything we saw in practice session. And Stefan Ruo looks like a little bit more competitive this time out. His qualifying lap there 9/10 off pole currently. But in practice, he was definitely more competitive than he has been of recent rounds. So Edge really trying to take the fight to THR. Realistically, they've got 30 points to catch up over the last 4 rounds. They can still do it, but they need a sort of big problem for THR, I would say, at this stage to take the team's title away. Although Ruo being up there, I know it's 7th place at the moment, but his pace definitely showing a little better than that at this round will do them no harm. Here's Matthew Williams for Mode, and him coming in. He's a previous SL2 or Superlights champion, actually, Matthew Williams. Very fast pedaler, but the Mode car has suffered from a lack of development this season a little bit, and you can actually see the development of each team on the GPVWC website. If you go to the competitions tab, go to the Super League, you can see who is upgrading the most, and it's a unique system to GPVWC, isn't it, Caitlin?
It is indeed. It's absolutely fascinating, and in my opinion, definitely one of the selling points of the series that you don't get anywhere else. Just how similar it is to the real world of motorsports. THR appear to be the team who have put in the most points towards their research and development. They have spec'd into a few things that other teams have not spec'd into so much. But realistically, what sets them apart is just how many different things they've spec'd into. So front wing downforce, rear wing downforce, diffuser, weight mass, drag, pit tire change, weight mass, transmission torque. So all of those things combined, making a very interesting and very good all-round race car there. Some other teams have spec'd into different areas a bit heavier. I think here at Singapore, downforce and especially diffuser downforce is going to be a really, really big benefit. But yeah, there do appear to be a few different ideas going into the series so far. And I've noticed that only 3 teams have not yet spec'd into rear wing downforce, with those being Adonis, Super Venturi and RSR. Before we move on, Toby, what do you make of that?
Well, it's actually front wing. They've not developed. That is an interesting one, though. It's okay. The front wing is not that powerful as an upgrade this season, but it does give you, at a track like Singapore that requires basically full wings, it means you can run. So there are 30 clicks of settings in the setup. So at Singapore, you want to run kind of 30-30 if you can, max downforce. So anyone who doesn't have that front wing upgrade, they're going to be running something like 30-27 as a wing split, which will mean that they don't have as much downforce as other teams, but it will also mean a team like Adonis and Super Venturi will have better top speed, actually. So keep an eye out for those teams. They're kind of forced into having better top speed, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Indeed. Now, another thing to note is that this is an extremely long Grand Prix, so engines are going to be pushed today, as well as especially brakes. So definitely keep an eye on teams being, or drivers in particular, being conservative with their brakes. In terms of the engines, though, the reason I bring that up is because I've noticed that only one team has decided to take a brand new power unit for this race, and I'm very surprised about that. One of the Pescara, the number 32 Pescara ADG car, which today will be driven by Eros Mattiuli, is the only car out there that has a brand new power unit for this track. So I guess the other teams have decided maybe save it for a track like Abu Dhabi or Brazil, where power is more effective.
Well, yes, I would say Pescara have had quite a few DNFs this season, so they probably got some spare, fresher engines over other teams as well. But yeah, this was a toss-up for us as well, and we decided at Nocturne to go with a 2-race-old engine here, on the idea being that power is not so important at this track, certainly compared to where we were last time out at Monza, and of course Japan has a very long straight through 130R. Abu Dhabi has a million straights separated by tight corners as VAT crosses the line and improves to 11th place, which is slightly lower than he has been qualifying this season. Here's Lalu as well, by the way, for Super Venturi. He's been doing quietly a good job this season, hasn't he?
Indeed, Jukka-Pekka has been extremely consistent. He's had a few dodgy results recently. I was expecting him to do a lot better in Italy, and I believe I actually predicted him for the win in Belgium before he retired. But yes, he is actually having a very good season. Only one podium so far, but it's been enough to put him 5th in the championship. And talking of the championship, congratulations to Owen McGorgy for wrapping up the Superleague Championship with 3 races to go. He achieved that 2 days ago, racing for the Road to Formula Racing team, and a very well-deserved championship victory with 8 wins to his name so far from just 13 races. Absolutely dominant, Toby.
Yeah, expect to see him do the remainder of the season for HRT. I wouldn't be surprised anyway if he doesn't come into Super League for the rest of the season. Now he's finished what he needs to do in Super Lights. To be honest, there wasn't really a championship challenge all season. Everyone who was competitive either had issues or didn't do certain rounds, like we saw Liam Duval drop out early and so on. So a bit of a shame from that point of view, but otherwise the racing was fantastic this season so far in Super Light. So it's congratulations to Owen. Absolutely dominant, as you say. He was always on pole, so very, very quick driver, Owen, and frankly don't want him in the series from a competitive point of view with Nocturne, but from a series point of view, it'd be great to have him here, and I think he will definitely be here next season.
And of course, you guys and Owen have history as a team after your FS1 campaign last year. But anyway, we're now into the final 5 minutes of qualifying, so it's about time to turn our attention to what's going on here. Looks like Jake Dennehan has a massive, almost 4/10 of a second advantage over the rest of the field so far, and he is absolutely using this as a statement of intent for his weekend. Not just taking pole position, but taking it by a massive margin. I'm getting very much ahead of myself there, considering we still have plenty of time to go in this session, and there's even a couple drivers yet to set a competitive lap time. But there you go, Jake Dennehan.
It's a very good. It's a very good time though, Caitlin. That's a very, very good lap. That's a magic lap, actually, to be honest. So I'm not surprised. He's just sitting in the pit lane at the moment. I don't really think he needs to go out again, to be honest.
And it's the fastest lap time that we've seen on even the practice server so far. So Jake absolutely flying and is sitting in the pit lane, as is his nearest rival, Adam Maguire. Tom Stevens is out on track right now. I think might just be starting a flying lap. Here's Chris Shepherd, who's just completed his very first lap, which only put him 25th, I'm afraid to say. And Flo Gaia out there as well. Only one former winner of this race on the grid today, and that is David Fido. Actually, where's David? Is David Fido not here today?
No, he's not. So
right.
driving for Stacks is Justin van der Smissen.
You're absolutely right. My apologies. Yeah, Justin van der Smissen on the grid. So no David Fido today. I know he wasn't particularly happy after the last race, so hope he's doing okay. But yeah, my apologies. So we actually have no former winners of this Grand Prix on the grid today. It's a wide open field. Here's Philip Pushkit. He, of course, a former champion of the series, but not yet winning at the Singapore Grand Prix circuit. Across the line he goes, and he will put his car. Well, he stays 19th. It is an improvement though from Philip Pushkit, and only 14 thousandths of a second behind the car ahead of him. Remember, points in the series go down to P15, although in qualifying, the more important bracket is the top 10, considering the top 10 in qualifying are basically locked into the tyres they set their fastest laps on. So if they set their lap on the soft tyres, then they have to start the race on the soft tyres as well, whether they like it or not. Florian Gaia across the lane and improves, but stays P24.
Yeah, the strategy is a fun thing. We sort of did something different in the THR Nocturne group last time out with Tom Stevens qualifying on the mediums. That is not viable here. The softs are a good bit quicker than the mediums here. But we are using the C5, C4, C3. They're the 3 softest compounds. Expect that soft tyre to not last very long in the race. So it's not such a bad thing to qualify P11 here. So expect someone who qualifies P11 maybe to start on the hards and go a long way through the race.
Who are we watching now? Eros Masculi in the Pescara ADG car. Pescara bottom of the team standings so far, although every team has scored points in this championship, which is good to see. They're currently on 15 points. And once again, it's good to see them fielding 2 cars today, because we've had races in the past where Pescara in particular have only shown up with 1, or in the case of Azerbaijan, not at all. Eros himself is one of the drivers who has scored points for the team. He scored an 11th place finish in Silverstone and then a 15th place finish in Hungary. Mark Schluter here as well scored his first podium earlier this season and is looking very, very strong. Into the last minute of qualifying we go now, and pretty much, every single driver is out on track right now. I know it doesn't look like it, since each driver is invisible to all of the other drivers, so it looks like we're only seeing 1 car out on track at a time, but all 26 drivers are out there, and we're about to see a shootout for the top honors.
We certainly are. I'm just looking down the grid. There's a couple of people who you'd expect to be a bit higher than they actually are. One of which is this man here, Robin Pansar, who currently in P17, he's a race winner this season, and he's not even set a personal best through the first sector on this particular lap, driving for Adonis, of course. He's struggling this session, as is Yukapeka Lalu, who's in 14th place, and Tomasz Bach in 16th, obviously his teammate up there in 6th place for RSR. Needs to put a lap together in this final run.
Robin Panzer currently only P17. That would be disappointing for the driver who won in Belgium. That car looks fantastic under the lights. Very orange. It's almost a 2017 style McLaren. And around the final sector he goes. Other drivers improving. No one in the top 10 improving just yet. I'm not convinced we're going to see many changes to the order here. Panther is P15. It's a purple sector 2 from Adam Maguire, so he's challenging for the top of the times. His first sector was a 10th down though on Jake Dennehan. I'm not convinced that he's going to improve. Ruben Machete goes P6, not a bad lap whatsoever. Here comes Matthew Williams through the final sector. I'm more interested in Adam Maguire right now, with respect to Matthew. He goes P12. Maguire around the final corner, and he stays P2. And he's 2 tenths off. I don't think Dennehan's lap is achievable right now. I think he has pole in the bag. Tom Stevens coming up to the final corner, wants to prove us wrong. It would have to be a mega final sector. Across the line he goes, and it's still P3, but he improved as well. Goodness me, though, the field's still extremely spread out at the top of the time, thanks mainly to Jake Dennehan. Here is Jake himself. He might just finish the lap to rub salt in the wound. He's improving once again, fastest second sector. Across the line he goes, and does he improve? He does! It's a 127.535, which puts him nearly 3 tenths of a second faster than anyone else in the field, and that lap is completely unassailable. He will be P1.
What a lap that is. That is out of this world. He's done 2.5s, and we know how quick Adam Maguire is. He's a former champion. Nowhere near. Over 2 tenths quicker, and his newest championship rival, Tom Stevens, nearly half a second off. What a lap from Jake Dennehan. Really showing that he's put the time and effort this time round into the practice.
Now here are the practice and qualifying results. Jake Dennehan will be P1 alongside Adam Maguire, then Tom Stevens 3rd, Jan Granqvist 4th, then Luke Maguire, Stefan Rohr, Ruben Machete, Pascal Polens, Daniel Stepkowski, and Carlos Martin. Carlos, who I think he might be in one of his first GPVWC Superleague races. Matthias Moos P11, then it's Matthew Williams, Mark Schluter, Zolf Schukes. He has a 1-place grid drop, I believe, or someone does anyway. Yukapeka Lalu P15, then it's Robin Pansar, Tomasz Bach, Hygo Poom, Philip Puishke, and Jeffrey Fournier. And yes, indeed, it will be Schukes that has the 1-place grid drop. Giuseppe Lino P21, followed by Aris Masculi, Fabian Schiertzig, Chris Shepherd, who also has a grid drop, so he will start from very near the back. Florian Geyer P25, and then Justin van der Slissen in his first GPVWC sim race, or Super League sim race, sorry. So welcome to the grid, Justin, although unfortunately he will have to round out the grid for his first attempt. Not a bad effort though, 13 rounds that the other drivers have under their belt, and that is a very strong grid of drivers to compete with. Just 0.2 0.28 seconds separate the top two, which I know doesn't sound like much, but that is a big gap between Dennehan and Maguire. And Dennehan once again proving why he is the championship leader. Tom Stevens will be starting from the second row of the grid. He could still throw a spanner in the works today. Judging by his pace, he will be right behind his main championship contender. But yeah, this is going to be a long one, Toby, and strategy and chaos, maybe back markers are going to come into play. We've got a lot to contend with today.
Yeah, we have certainly got a lot to contend with. What a lap that was from Jake, though. I mean, you can see in the standings he's had a very good season so far, but this has been a real statement after a disappointing race by his standards at Monza last time out. We shouldn't be too surprised. In FS1 last season, he qualified on pole by best part of 3/10 there, and actually was 9/10 faster than Tom, who actually ended up winning the championship in Formula Sprint 1 last season. But nevertheless, you can see how much effort he's put in this time round to put it on pole by that much. The standings on the screen in front of you, we were alluded to them earlier. Jake currently leading by just 3 points. It's really him and Tom Stevens now fighting for the championship over the last 4 rounds. I think mathematically now, I think those two are the only two that can win actually mathematically now. So yes, it's going to be a 2-horse race. It's going to be a new Super League champion, but who's your money on at this point, Caitlin?
Well, Jake has proved to have the upper hand in terms of pace throughout the season. Pretty much every round he's been the one to beat, and realistically I'm glad that Tom has been able to hold on for so long, because near the start it certainly looked like it was going to be a Jake Dennehan whitewash. However, Tom Stevens, incredible consistency. He's the only driver on the grid who has not yet finished outside of the top 5. In fact, he's not yet finished outside of the top 4. Between him and Dennehan, it was a real slug match of consistency going up to the last round. And then, of course, Dennehan had that one off weekend. But the thing with Tom Stevens, he doesn't really have off weekends. So even though Jake is marginally quicker on average, Tom will always be there to pick up the points when Jake can't, and that could come into play today on what will be a very grueling Grand Prix as well. So for this particular Grand Prix, I have to say Jake. For the actual championship, probably still Jake, but I think Tom is going to give him a darn good run for his money.
Yeah, this race is definitely Jake's probably strongest track of the season, looking at historic results. So I would also say this is Tom Stevens' first week at Oxford Brookes University, so congratulations on actually turning up to this race and not being too hungover. I know he's had a fun few days so far, and I understand some of his flatmates are actually watching, so hello everyone. I've been asked to do a shout out to Emma and Lola and their ex-boyfriend, so hello. So I hope you guys are enjoying watching for the first time. It's nice to have new people watching GPVWC and getting involved, and I think Tom's got his own little fan club over there, to be honest. So yes, hope they're not too hope they stick around for the whole race, because it's going to be a fun one, but it's going to be a long one, as you say. Probably the longest of the season, right?
Well, it has been historically. Sorry, I'm about to sneeze. It has been historically the longest of the season. One thing I've noticed is that despite the chicane being removed, or the 2 chicanes being removed,
yes,
the actual race distance is the same in terms of the number of laps. So that means that theoretically it's going to be a shorter race than historically, but probably by a negligible amount. And I mean, Singapore is always grueling for other reasons. First of all, the way that it's dark and you have the floodlights and all that, that actually has a psychological effect on the drivers, which can't really be explained that well.
Yes.
But it is actually quite a tiring circuit to drive, just because of the light, because of how close the walls are, of course, being a straight circuit. From a mental point of view, this is actually quite a challenge here. Yeah. And of course, if we were actually at Singapore, we'd have the heat to contend with, but really that's down to where each of these drivers are from in the world, and what kind of setups they have in their rooms, and all of that. But realistically, it's more to do with the actual challenge of the circuit itself, and the fact that, as with every other Grand Prix, this is 310 kilometers for the first lap to go over that that amount, and that is quite a lot of racing to do in one sitting.
It is, especially when you've got quite short straights. There's no breathing room. Team standings on the screen now. We were alluding to the Edge versus CHR battle that's been ongoing this season. 32 points separate the two, so it will be difficult for Edge to catch. But Ruo certainly has been a little bit faster this time around. I mentioned it in the qualifying session as well. And of course, Jake will be hoping to take maximum points from his pole position. We should talk a little bit about potential strategies. As I mentioned, the 3 softest tyres being used today. C5 compound for the soft, C4 for the medium, and C3 is the hard tyre. The C3 usually is the medium tyre, and it doesn't hold up that well. So I highly doubt anyone's going to attempt a 2-stopper. I would expect most people to want to do 3. 4-stop is an option if you're feeling a little aggressive. From that information, take what you will. But that's the information that I certainly have. I'm not going to tell you what we're doing, but I will tell you. That 3 and 4 stops are both very viable.
So you're going to be doing 3.5 stops then?
Yeah, we'll drive through for speeding the pit lane.
Indeed, sounds good. You were right earlier about Jake Dinahan having historically very good results here at Singapore. In 2021, he won the first of the 2 races here in Formula Sprint 2, and then the second in the second race. And then in 2022, so last year, he repeated the exact same result in Formula Sprint 1, which of course is an even tougher category. So very important stuff from Jake Dinahan, and that helped him to a championship in Formula Sprint 2, and then 3rd place in the championship in Formula Sprint 1. What can he do today? Well, judging by his qualifying results, he is still the one to beat. I personally think that this should be right up his alley.
Yep.
And I can't really see him making any silly mistakes or anything like that today. But then again, we have said that in the past, and it's gone completely the other direction, because qualifying pace and race pace are completely different things, especially on a circuit like Singapore. Finally, before we move on to the sorry, I still feel the need to sneeze soon. Before we actually move on to the actual Grand Prix and all of that, we should completely forget what we were about to say. Well done.
Really? Really?
Okay, well, I should correct something that I was saying earlier. I seemed to imply as I was reading through the results that Carlos Martin was in his first GPVWC race as well. This is in fact his second Superleague race. Because, because he drove his first last time out at Monza.
Yeah. Yep.
And other than that, the only rookie on the grid in terms of first time out appearances is Justin van der Smitten. So good luck to Justin, and welcome to GPVWC Super League.
It's a fun series. It is our Premier one at GPVWC, the Super League series, and steeped in history. It's been going since 2002. Very long time.
2000.
2000 is? Oh, my bad. A very long time. It's been on multiple different platforms and games. And of course, originally it wasn't even an online race. People would race offline and submit their files. So yeah, it's been going for forever, really. And so there's some very big names that have come and gone, and have gone on to very excellent things in the world of real motorsport, and of course sim racing, virtual sim racing as well. So great to have you watching, and of course these broadcasts all get stored on our YouTube channel as well. So it's fun to go back and watch broadcasts from a few years ago. I don't know if you ever do that, Caitlin, but certainly one of my favourite pastimes to go and watch back races from a couple of years ago that were spicy for one reason or another. We should mention, there's one thing that we should mention. Rain is due in 90 minutes. Now, 90 minutes from now means probably the last 10 minutes of the race.
The very, very end. Indeed.
The very end. So, a key thing, a very, very key thing, will be getting the strategy right if the rain comes and how heavy it is. You don't want to box for your final set of tyres and the next lap the heavens open. And from what I understand of the forecast, it is guaranteed to come. So exactly when it arrives, that remains to be seen. But from the information I have, 90 minutes time.
Yeah, but we were talking to Szymon just now before the broadcast started, and he said that it basically already was raining in Singapore, so that's a little confusing. I think when it comes to rain forecast for such a long time in the future, you've kind of just got to forget about it. I mean, realistically, we've had races in the past where we've all been waiting, like, when's the rain going to come? It just does not arrive. And there have been other races where it's caught us off guard. James Hunt always said that you had to change your driving and change your tyres for the conditions that you're actually racing in. So he would always start on slicks in dry weather, even if the rain was going to come. He would always start on wet tyres, even if it was going to dry out. You just got to race on the track that you actually got, because if you try to predict things, that's when you end up making, 5 or 6 stops by accident.
Yeah,
and another thing,
point.
just before I move on, this race is probably going to be quicker than real-life Grand Prix anyway, for a couple of reasons. First of all, the cars are marginally quicker over a race distance anyway, and secondly, we're not expecting, we can't have safety cars today. That's just not a thing that GPVWC has. So that's not going to affect the result. And I think that if the rain really does come in about 90 minutes, we should be done, or very nearly done by that point anyway.
Well, yes. So the race should be, based on average lap times, around 96, 97 minutes, which is obviously an hour and 37 minutes. So yeah, it's going to be very close. We'll see. Nobody really knows that far away, as you say, but it's certainly something to keep an eye on, and we hopefully won't affect people too much, but it might spice up the action from a viewership point of view. So do stick around, guys, right to the end. Just there is that looming threat of Singaporean rain.
Indeed. I'm just reading through the YouTube chat as well. Welcome in. How are you doing, everyone? And I'm kind of wishing that I hadn't read through the YouTube chat, because you know what David Yunt said?
Go on.
If you, so Toby Davis, were a chocolate, what would you be?
Toblerone.
Indeed.
That's
Toblerone.
Really easy.
Is badumtus. Indeed. Yeetus Momita says Little Brand. What do you make of that?
That's a bit unnecessary. That's Jack Mayer.
Yeah. That doesn't
Thanks,
even
Jack.
work as a punchline, but there you go.
Little Brand, nice one. Well, I'll do my best to not be a Little Brand commentator today.
Oh, we got Omagorgi here. I'm doing great, and I will be doing better if Jake wins. Well, I tell you what, I know why you're doing great. Congratulations, Mr. Omagorgi. We've got plenty of other drivers in the chat. Vincent Guts raced with us in the past. Dave Young, of course, himself has done so. Jack Mayer. Jack himself is doing extremely well in the junior Formula right now, leading the FS1 Championship, and could well wrap that up in due time. But anyway, off we go to the start of the formation lap. Let's run you through the grid for one last time before we get going for 62 laps here at the Singapore Marina Bay Street Circuit. So Jake Dennehan will, as usual, start on pole position, followed by Adam Maguire. Then Tom Stevens will start on the second row of the grid, alongside Jan Brangfist at the very spicy top 4. Luke Maguire is P5, then Stefan Rowe, Ruben Machedi, and Pascal Collins. Again, very spicy 4 drivers. Ruben Machedi improving from his last race. Daniel Stepkowski P9, then Carlos Martin into the second Super League race. Matthias Moose P11, and Matthew Williams P12. Mark Schluter, Jakub Lali, Zolt Fuchs, and Robin Panstar. Panstar will be pretty disappointed with P16. I know he can do a lot better than that. Thomas Schwab P17, then Heigo Poom, Philip Pischke, and Jeffrey Fournier. Epic racing from the highs of Italy to the relative lows of qualifying in Singapore. Lino and Masciuli, Lino up together in P21 and P22. I'm sorry. Fabian Schlitzek will be P23 with Florian Geyer in P24. And then at the back of the field, Justin Van der Smissen starts his very first race, just ahead of Chris Shepherd, who has the grid penalty. So those are the 26 drivers. Before we get into it, it's great to have 26 drivers here, Toby. We haven't had a full house for the last 2 or 3 Grand Prix. And yeah, 26 drivers, that's the exact amount that we like to see when we roll up to one of these things.
Yes. Well, I mean, before the season started, we were hoping for 15 teams, therefore 30 drivers. Of course, we lost Burst and Evolution before the season started, which, particularly Evo, they were defending champions, was a big loss. But nevertheless, the standard this season, I would say, has been exceptionally high. It has been this high for a few years, to be honest. There's been a lot of different drivers competitive, but it's always those who are able to stay competitively consistent that rise to the top, and that has been Jake and Tom. Jake Dennehan, Tom Stevens, first and third on the grid. Keep an eye out for what happens first couple of laps, whether Jake wants to try and get a gap. He'll know and trust in his pace around this track, and DRS train's not really a thing here. The straights just aren't long enough, so but the key here is tyre wear too, and those C5s do not like being pushed too hard, so it's a trade-off. Will he back the pack up and try to extend his opening stint, maybe guaranteeing him a 3-stop, or will he run away? That's the big talking point of the opening few laps, and we'll get a good understanding of what his strategy will be very early on. But I'm very excited for this one.
And there you see the tyres that the drivers will be starting on. Soft tyres for the top 10, specifically because that is mandated by their qualifying performances, so they had to start on the softs whether they liked it or not. And behind them, pretty much every driver doing the whole strategy. Matthias Moose will be the top driver on medium tyres, Matthew Williams the top driver on hards, and the only driver outside of the top 10 to start on softs will be Florian Geyer, trying to make up some position from the get-go. Can anyone stop Jake Dennehan today, or is his pace just too great? That is what we will see over the next 96 or 97 minutes, as pointed out. 62 laps of the Marina Bay street circuit. And will the slightly new layout affect the racing whatsoever? We'll find out when those 5 lights in front of you first of all illuminate and then extinguish, when they feel like it, of course. Here we go. 5 red lights coming on, and as soon as they go out, we go! So away goes Jake Dennehan into the lead of the race. Side by side behind him are Adam Maguire and Tom Stevens, and they hold position going into turn 1. Slightly wide and over the curb goes Maguire, but they all make it through. And at the back of the field, looks as if they pretty much all decided to keep to the road, which is good to see. Often with first corner chicanes, you get some drivers straight lining them. Through the opening sector of the lap they go, right up close to the barrier. Sparks flying, and Maguire is right on the back of Dennehan, so not giving it up easily in the early stages of the race. Right wide over the curb, flies over the sausage. And we get into the right-hander braking zone, the 90-degree. Jake Dennehan still has the lead of the race. Maguire possibly a little ticked off after what just happened there. Although I don't think Dennehan did anything slightly out. I don't think he did anything even slightly out of order. I think that he was just holding his line, and Maguire got a bit aggressive. Down into what used to be the Singapore sling they go, and then into a chicane that still is here, as we head toward the Anderson Bridge, but soon we'll be on to a brand new straight and a brand new overtaking zone. There's a DRS zone that will come into play from lap 3, and the leaders are side by side. Maguire takes a challenge, and he goes into the lead on the very first lap of the race. Now that's something that wasn't expected. Now through as well go Tom Stevens. Stevens is up to second in the brand new overtaking opportunity. Drivers run wide. Oh no! My goodness! Jake Dennehan is off. Tom Stevens has done a full 360, and through goes Luke Maguire. So it's a Maguire 1-2, and the championship leaders have come to play.
Oh no!
Drama on the first lap at Singapore.
We've got to see this again. We have to see that again. I have no idea how that happened, but that's the first and only time either of those have had any kind of contact whatsoever this season. They've been clean all the way through, and I can't call it.
It didn't start with them. It wasn't contact between Dennehan and Stevens that started that all off. It was contact between Dennehan and Granqvist. Now, what I think happened is that Dennehan was trying to give the place back to Stevens after running over the escape road. I think he backed off too quickly. Granqvist didn't know what he was doing, ran straight into the back of it. and Denham was pitched into Stevens. Let's rewatch that, but I think that was Denham backing off on the exit of the corner. So there's Adam Maguire getting through. He goes through on the inside of Denham. Tom Stevens is going to make the most of that, take advantage, and go through as well. A brilliant bit of opportunistic driving from Tom Stevens. Through he goes. Now watch it from on board Denham, and crucially, watch his telemetry on the exit of the corner. I think he's going to lift off, and he gets followed.
He should not have lifted there. He should not have lifted. No doubt, Grankvist had nowhere to go there whatsoever. He's expecting him to be on full throttle. Look at this. Why is he lifting?
And he will feel brake checked. He will feel completely brake checked there.
Yep.
And around they both go. That was incredible stuff on the very first lap at Singapore. Adam Maguire leads from Luke Maguire and Jan Grankvist, the blameless Jan Grankvist, in our opinion.
Yep.
And Adam Maguire, this is the new fastest lap. Sorry, what's up?
It's super straightforward. That's Jake lifting in a place where he should be full throttle, and Jan obviously not anticipating that, has just driven into the back of him, and nothing at all Jan could do. And now of course Stevens and especially Denham down in P18. He's got so much work to do from there.
Absolutely dramatic stuff in the opening stages. Now where are they? Tom Stevens is P8. Jake Denham is all the way down in P18. Goodness me. So yeah, the recovery drive is on, as Aviation Chat has said in the YouTube chat. There's Daniel Stepkowski now side by side with Pascal Pullens. I was noting as we went to green that RSR had been uncharacteristically low in the standings, although Daniel has had a wonderful start there, avoiding all of the chaos to get through to P6. Ruben Machete is up to P5. But yeah, it's the two Maguires leading at the end of the first few laps, and despite the contact that's just happened, from an objective point of view, your teams there have done pretty well. I'm not objective today. I'm not subjective today. I'm unbiased, and that's not how you want anything like that to happen. No,
Stevens and Denham will both have shot tyres now. These C5s.
Ooh.
These C5s do not like that kind of thing. Stevens is going to have to box look on lap 4, and he's going to have to be really careful here on the pit entry. Yeah, neither of them will have tyres. Honestly, when you go around on the C5, you lose 20% of their wear. So that is very early though, lap 4.
Yeah, you were telling me about how much they actually lose. He must have horrendous flat spotting, and you can see him being overtaken by Carlos Martin there. Carlos Martin, great start as well. He had quite a qualifying session, and he's just behind his teammate now, Pascal Pullens. They're both running in the top 8. But yes, we've got Tom Stevens down to the very back of the order now, and he'll be absolutely spitting feathers. I'm sure that we're going to see some reports after this race. Lino appears to have closed there with Shoot, but that's Philip Pushkay, sorry. Shoot come through right now. We're going to see another replay, potentially, of what just happened. So here's Philip Pushkay. We've got Lino going for the move, goes to the inside line, brakes slightly later, very wide goes Pushkay, completely straight line to the corner. Looks as if there may have been a little bit of contact going in, but I think it was a bit of an overreaction maybe from potentially both of them. Here's Jan Grankvist running in 3rd place, catching Luke Maguire. DRS is available at this point in the race, although not for Luke, because Adam has really started to get away. So the lead seems uncontested, and the first battle we have in the race is that for 2nd, 3rd and 4th.
This will be a very interesting race from here. Very interesting. Jan Grankvist will be looking for his first Super League win at this point, but Adam Maguire has chosen that strat to just shoot off into the distance, whereas Luke clearly looking after his tyres for the opening couple of laps. We know that Lalu and sometimes Grankvist as well both like to go a little bit longer on their tyres. They're probably doing that 3-stop strategy. Certainly Lalu, starting on the hard tyres, will be looking to do that. Got a yellow flag in sector 1. Stepkowski's off. What's happened to him?
Well, he's gone the wrong way. Look at that.
Oh, look at that. He's got to wait. He's got to wait for the whole pack to go through.
Yeah, got lost. Whoops. No, of course, it wouldn't have been as simple as that. He'd have made a big lock-up or come into contact with someone or something like that. Here's a replay of it, down towards turn 4, locks up the rears, the car overcorrects, round he goes. That's a lot like what happened to Sergio Perez in qualifying the actual Singapore Grand Prix this year, and then of course you have to wait for the entire field to come back through.
It's so frustrating. It's like the worst thing that can possibly happen to you is to have to wait for everyone to go through. And if you pull in front of someone, you might get away with it, but it's just... And look at this from Denahan. Do you know what? A part of the... I wonder if Stevens is boxed to just get out of traffic, because Denahan's lap times right now, they're in the low 35s, whereas Adam and Luke up front, Adam and Luke Maguire, are doing 33.6s. So they're 1.6 seconds quicker than Jake right now, and Jake's obviously stuck behind Heiger Poom, by the way, who's driving for Epic this time around. We haven't mentioned him, actually, but he's had a very strong Superlight season. Good to see him replacing Jarl Tyen, who obviously just did that one-off race. And he is boxing, look, Jake, at the end of lap 6, again, very early. So, yeah.
Yeah, so no surprise, the two drivers that we've seen spinning so far are the first two drivers into the pits. Of course, we've seen 3 drivers spinning now, but Jake Denahan and Tom Stevens with that first lap collision ruining their tyres and potentially their chances in this race, so it's very early still. Tom Stevens will have committed to a 4-stop strategy. Jake Denahan presumably doing the same thing now. He's on the hard compound tyres, or at least as hard as you can, considering they brought the softest compound to this race. And here's his teammate, meanwhile, Stefan Roth, in the fight for P2 and P3. DRS will be fully enabled. It's still a difficult track to overtake at, even with the new overtaking opportunity. There's one of the DRS zones now. Rear wing opens up. And if you are new to GPVWC or racing in general, I don't know if there's anyone who will be here, but the DRS is the drag reduction system. Basically, if you're within a second of the car ahead of you, going onto a long straight which is designated as a DRS zone, then you can open up the rear wing and your car ends up going quite a lot faster. Just helps you to overtake the car in front of you. Although in Roth's
Maguire's in. Maguire's in, by the way, sorry.
In the pit, yeah, very good. So Adam Maguire the first to pit. Luke Maguire stays out and will lead the race now.
Chris Butcher's just messaged me and said Luke forgot to pit. That doesn't surprise me at all with these two. But Maguire does stop on lap 6, or lap 7 actually. So looks like they were both meant to pit this lap.
So what you're saying is Luke Maguire is going to be in next lap?
Yeah, I would say definitely from that message. I don't mind giving that information away. But Maguire does box. He's come out in some cars, but you're going to come out in some cars here. There's just an endless train from P5 down, actually, look. So, yeah, that makes sense. And actually, of course, Macheda was probably close enough to be affected by stopping on the same lap. So I'd imagine Macheda will be in the same time as Luke Maguire. It'd be interesting to see what Jan Grankvist, Ruo, those guys do now, because Luke is leading this race. It's just whether or not Adam Maguire can actually use that fresh rubber on the outlap or not. Doesn't really have a gap, does he?
No, he doesn't, does he? And another thing to note is that there's a lot of traffic that they're coming into now as well. I get the picture that no one wanted to start on the soft tyres here, just kind of compulsory. Because you were telling me before the start of the broadcast just how, and into the pits now does come Luke Maguire from the lead, so Grankvist will lead. You were telling me just how bad the soft tyres actually are, but I wasn't expecting leaders in on lap 7, lap 8. So that shows me that, yeah, 4 stops are absolutely going to be something that we will see today. Yep. And realistically, you want to spend as much time on the hardest tyre possible as you possibly can.
Well, the lap times... Yes. Sorry. I'm so sorry. The lap times, though, if you look, the soft tyres just are no longer anywhere near the pace, and there goes Adam Maguire miles ahead of Luke. So yeah, so that undercut is really who is that crossing the runoff? It's Mashuli. Look, so yeah, Maguire is how far behind us? He's 2 seconds behind Adam, even though Adam did have traffic. So yeah, the undercut huge here. Shows you what fresh tyres can do.
That's a lot of traffic, says Tom Parker. Yep, Captain Obvious there, but we do have a lot of traffic in this race, and that's the trouble that comes with having every single car so closely bunched together right at the start of the race. And it's a situation that we haven't really seen at any other circuit, because at other circuits, the leaders have been able to extend the gap, and the field has spread out as a result of that. So that when they've pitted, they've come out, maybe 10th at the lowest, and that's for their first pit stop. So actually seeing them come out right down the order, Stevens and Denahan, P24, P25, even Adam Maguire is outside of the points paying positions right now. Grankvist stays out. Looks like Ruo will be coming in, so Grankvist has another lap credited to his name as the leader of the race. Ruben Machete follows Ruo in from 3rd position, and Pascal Pullens and Carlos Martin will be the next cars through. Here's Maguire now up into the points paying positions, although of course he will eventually be presumably back onto the podium. It just so happens that the race swings back and forth with the pit stop stages, like the turning of the tide. There's Stefan Rohr. Now where is Luke Maguire? Luke's
they're
gone
miles
through.
Yeah. The undercut's so powerful. Look at how many more cars are between Ruo and Maguire, Luke. Considering they were kind of, what was it, 2 or 3 2 seconds apart before they stopped. It might still be 2 seconds, but there's about 5 cars there, and Adam Maguire's making excellent progress through the pack. And this is Maguire's to lose, actually, isn't it? At this point.
If the soft tyres really are this bad, why did anyone... So, okay, I'm going to answer my own question at the end of this, but why did anyone bother to qualify on the soft tyres in the first place? Of course, I know that the answer is because track position is very important, because they wanted to be at the front of the grid. But the thing is, I don't really understand why it's not beneficial just to pit at the end of the first lap and drop to the back, get some clean air, get some clean tyres. Everyone else will still need to pit later on, but all of a sudden... Ruo's
got smoke coming out of his car. That's interesting. So he's obviously so he's obviously running... That was close. He's obviously running quite low radius. To answer your question, although the softs are not a great race tyre, you still absolutely need the track position here. Look at where, Tom Stevens obviously right. He pitted from P7, 8. He's 10 seconds off Adam Maguire. That's just track position that right there. That's how much time he's lost. Tom has got a very long race at this point from there, as has Jake Denahan, by the way, who's a good 7 seconds back of him.
Now, I'm just looking back at the Stefan Rohr incident there with the smoke. It was very strange. There was a tiny... Oh, Justin van der Smissen's gone for a spin. Well, I'm afraid this is a very tough track to make your debut. Just make sure you rejoin safely, Justin. There we go.
That was Jake Denahan there going through. I thought something... Do you know what? In the back of my head, I could see him coming straight across the track. This is van der Smissen's spin, then too much power, and round she goes. But as he came across... Back across. Okay. Yeah, that spin there, I just was worried for a brief second.
I was more worried about his car than the other one, because there was a little bit of room for Denahan, but he kind of clonked the wall on the way around. But anyway, back onto the road he goes. So yeah, back to the Rohr thing. There was a tiny puff of black smoke, but it wasn't like it erupted, or it wasn't like the car was overheating down the whole straight. It was just a tiny bit at the start. And then it seemed to go as quickly as it came, so maybe he'll be okay. Pascal Pullens now into the pits from the lead, so Matthias Moot had his time in the sun, and that is not surprising considering he is the top driver who started on the medium compound tyre.
Yeah, but even those though, they've only got to lap 10, lap 11. They're just, the tyres are not lasting, Caitlin.
That's right, no, I think Pullens was still on softs, right? I think he was on softs.
I'll tell you now. No, you're right. I'm sorry. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, so Moose has still got a bit of time ahead of him. It's just that the drivers on softs wanted to get off them as quickly as possible. I think there was another car smoking on the way past it. That might have been a lockup. I thought I saw some white smoke that time.
Okay. I have to say I was busy looking at race view, which you can also look at for live timings, by the way. race-view.com. Just click on the GPVWC server. You can see what tyres people are on, purple being hards, green being mediums, blue is softs on that website.
Fair enough indeed. Radar saying Caitlin Penny reporting on the plane today. Yeah, I'm afraid I'm using a different microphone to usual because there is a so my other microphone broke down. I'm really sorry that I don't sound as good as I usually do. Hopefully it's still acceptable, and I will absolutely try to get my quality better for the next broadcast. But anyway, this is a temporary fix. There's Stefan Rourke going past Chris Shepherd. That's for P12. And I tell you what, this race is going to be... Oh, as Schluter apparently just took the lead from Moose. Is he in the pits? Yes,
yeah,
he is.
he's boxed.
Sorry. I was worried he'd had a spin or something. But yeah, so Schluter lead, Matthew Williams second place, Matthias Moose into the pit. And that is the first of our leaders on medium tyres coming in. Schluter appears to be on hard tyres, I think. So he'll be running much longer. I think that's the case, judging by race room. It's always hard to tell. Race room view, sorry. Yeah, no, so Schluter's on the medium tyres, and Williams is the top driver on hard at this point in time. So Williams will probably lead the race before long. Grankfist getting forced out wide. I was going to say, Adam Maguire already up to 4th position, so the pit cycle going by very quickly indeed, even from the drivers on the medium tyres. Here's a replay now, and this will be Jan Grankvist going around the outside of Philip Puschke and getting the door slammed in his face. I think Puschke had the right to do so, so still far enough ahead. Here comes Maguire, carving through the traffic as quickly as he possibly can, straight through on Jukka-Pekka Lalu with no problem whatsoever. He's now back up into the podium places, and he has several cars between himself and Luke Maguire. Luke actually has been caught a little by Jan Grankvist now. That gap will be coming down as they encounter traffic. And here's Roar getting past Eros Masculi. So changes in the order. Schluter yet to stop, probably will for long, but stays out for another lap. Matthew Williams stays out in 2nd place. That's the battle for the lead temporarily, but look who's coming up behind. Adam Maguire, fast as you like.
Yeah, 1.7 seconds the difference between Adam Maguire and Schluter's last lap of time. So shows you what a fresh set of rubber can do. And actually Maguire has nearly caught back up the pit stop he lost from the lead now. So as Williams goes down the inside of Schluter for the lead, gets a bit of a squirrel on, and Schluter bottomed out on the exit curb as well. And these two are about to be gobbled up in half a lap actually from Adam Maguire if they continue battling like this.
And wide. I thought he was going to lose it. Here comes Adam Maguire now up the inside of Williams. He'll demote one of those, and he says, right, your fun's over. Slicing you up. Here comes Schluter next up. Luke Maguire now around the outside of Hygo Poom. Does not want to waste any time behind the Epic Racing car. Into the hairpin they go. Lucky not to get run into there. There's a real bottleneck every single time you go into that corner. And Adam Maguire finally retakes the lead of the race up the inside of Schluter. And at several points in that lap, it looked as if at least someone was going to spin straight across in front of them. So he will be very relieved to be ahead of that fight. And the fight's not over yet, because Williams has now caught back up to Schluter immediately behind them. And I'm sure that's going to resume. But anyway, much later into pit lane as we speak. So he pits, Matthew Williams stays out on the hard compound of tyre. And now strategy comes into play, because the drivers who started on soft will be possibly more geared towards a 4-stop than a 3-stop point in time. Matthew Williams will still be going for the 3-stop strategy, almost undeniably. And now we have to consider where people are going to be in the net order, as well as where they're going to be on the road.
Well, I mean, if you look at Grankfist and how he hasn't quite got through the traffic as fast as Adam has, and he's lost a little bit of time to Luke Maguire as well on this last lap, it's just ebbing and flowing as they cut their way through. And Macheda behind Ruo as well. You know, Ruo's just been more effective getting through the pack. Tom Stevens up to P12, so back up into the points for him. Denahan also back into 15th place. Denahan's, I would guess, based on lap times, equivalent lap times, Denahan doesn't seem to have as much damage as Stevens here actually, and has been catching him by sort of half a second a lap actually. So Stevens must have quite substantial damage. His race pace is a good second off what it should be right now.
Well, here is Tom Stevens, still lapping. He's got a little bit of clean air actually, which is quite a rarity in the early stages of the Singapore Grand Prix. It is quite a long circuit, so eventually they should start to spread out. There's Carlos Martin making an opportunistic move on Fabian Schiertzik just behind. Carlos, very impressive. Fabian, also very impressive season, although not quite a competitive car, as competitive a car that is, with the green stripes. He's now been passed by Dennehan as well, meaning Dennehan's not that far behind Stevens.
No, indeed.
So hopefully they keep it clean this time. Here's Hygo Poom. Sok-Shuk, sorry. I was distracted because Poom's in the pits. Now we're going up to Stefan Rohr. That's okay, don't worry about it. And Carlos Martin making his move on Fabian Schiertzik. Oh, was aggressive stuff,
yeah.
But to be honest, you know, didn't force him into the wall or off the road or anything. Fair move, gets it done. We're all now getting it done on Martin as well, so up into P7.
Shader's not far behind, so he'll be looking to catch up to Ruo. But Ruo's doing better this round, actually. P7 for him is pretty decent. He's not that far off the back of Maguire, Grankvist ahead, and that's kind of net P4, therefore, isn't it? Because Adam Maguire, obviously de facto leading now, but net P2 is Luke Maguire, and net P3 Jan Grankvist. They've caught up to Robin Pansar, who's not stopped just yet and started on the hard tyres. So it's interesting to see how far these hards actually can go for Pansar. I suspect he'll be extending this as long as he can, trying to 3-stop from here. And that was important for Maguire, look. So Grankvist got held up. It's going to ebb and flow all the way through this race.
Grankvist through on Pansar as well. Chasing down Luke Maguire. Not much of a gap between those two, who pitted a few laps apart. Grankvist in the Super Venturi has 5 podiums to his name this season so far, but no victories just yet. They're proving elusive. A lot of support in the YouTube chat though, people cheering on Jan Grankvist, or as someone said earlier, Goatkvist, who has earned the win. That's Aviation Chat who says that. It's time, he says. So yeah, Jan Grankvist with a lot of pressure from the YouTube chat. Look at Matthew Williams and Robin Pansar there, up 10 places each. Who is that? I think Matthew Bewley's up 12 so far, showing you just how much strategy can shake up the field. There's Ruben Machete now on Philip Pushke. And at the end of the race, I'm sure quite heroic numbers as well from drivers making up places, making some moves, benefiting from attrition.
Stevens just doesn't have the pace Jake has, Jake Dennehan behind him. If you look at their lap times, it's clear to me. Obviously, Jake, very impressive in qualifying, but there's regularly half a second of lap between them. And you alluded to this, Tom did have fresh, clean air the last couple of laps. So this is representative, and he's catching him hand over fist. It won't be long before our two championship rivals really do battle for real on track now. So keep an eye out on that one, because they are battling for decent points now, and they will want to score points in this race, of course, both having that early spin. In case you missed it, at the end of that first lap, it was Tom Stevens and Jan Grankvist came together as a result of Jake Dennehan lifting and causing them all to sort of have some contact, and Dennehan and Tom Stevens both span around.
Indeed, and Stevens went into the wall on that occasion as well, so we have to consider there might be some lingering damage for Tom Stevens. He certainly got the worst of it from the two. There's Lalu in the pit, along with Robin Pansar, and Fabian Schiertzik into the pits behind them as well, so a few people into the pits. K3 and 3, or Ken3 I suppose it's supposed to be, also repeating Goatkvist with the goat in capitals. So clearly Jan Grankvist, possibly even the most popular driver on the grid today. There are definitely some others who have a lot of friends and supporters in the paddock, but that's one thing that I really like about GPVWC. There's a real community atmosphere to it, and it's not all about one particular person or team or anything like that. And the racing certainly reflects that. It gets more respectful the higher up you go. Luke Maguire up the inside of Matthew Williams. Through he goes, so it's once again a Maguire 1-2, with the gap being 4 seconds. Hasn't come out as much as it looked like it was going to do earlier on. There's Grankvist up the inside now as well. When they found themselves coming out of the pits, they had about 4 or 5 cars between them, and that can easily cost you 10 seconds. So Luke McGuire's done a pretty good job to hold on to that. And there's 3 wide on the exit of a very tight corner. Luckily, the track is very wide there, but that's still a little tasty. We've got an epic racing car of Hygo Prix getting involved as well now, and those 3 cars that you can see are Giuseppe Lino, and Zolt Shoot. More pit stops going on up ahead for Williams, Quishke and Masciuli. You've got both of the Adonis cars involved in this one now as well. I'm going to do a replay of what just happened to Justin van der Smissen out of turn 3. Running at the very back of the field, I'm afraid to say, and that is one of the reasons why. A big clonk on the wall, and he loses his front wing. Very Sebastian Vettel 2017 style. He's still running though, and to be honest, if he finishes his first Grand Prix in GPVWC League, then that will be something you never take away from him. Here's Giuseppe Lino down towards the left-hander at turn 6. Over the curb goes Zolt Shoot, getting forced out wide. Boom will take a look. He's alongside him now, and the next corner is a left-hander, so he just needs to hold on. And there we go. That's a nicely worked manoeuvre.
Yeah, these guys are all on the 3-stop strategy. This is not helping them, all this battling here. But I would say probably the top 6 or 7 are going to have to 4-stop now. Behind Denahan, of course, you've got Carlos Martin, who has 1 stopped and gone on to hard. He could 3-stop from there. I think he's probably the first person who would be thinking about the 3-stop. But I would say the top 7 now, realistically, they have to 4-stop from here. Here comes Tom Stevens, look, pitting. He wants to get that undercut on Jake Denahan. He has struggled in that first stint, has he not?
Indeed, it's been a disappointing one so far, but I don't really think that's through his own fault. I do expect that he has some level of damage on that car, and even if not, you have to consider that after an accident like that, sometimes a driver's mental state can be altered. There are situations where I've been involved in accidents myself, and for the rest of the race I've just had that one thought on my mind, and I haven't been driving as myself. But there you go, Tom Stevens coming out side by side there with Eris Masciuli, gets the position.
Yeah.
And apparently Daniel Stepkowski now has a penalty. That would be for pit lane speed, wouldn't it?
Yeah, he's having a nightmare. He's down in P24. And that's not gone well for him at all, has it? Of course, that rejoin you had to wait for. And Fach, his teammate in P10, not the best for RSR, unfortunately. He must have... and that's wide onto the asphalt as well. And he's sped. Oh, hello. Yeah, it's all
Goodness me. He was all at sea coming into the pits there.
All gone wrong for Daniel Stepkowski. He actually broke the event briefing rules as well on the way in, so...
Yeah,
if anyone's monitoring that.
Took the Fernando Alonso line coming into the pits, went over the curb, got it all under control again, then lost it again on the way in. Realised he was going way too fast and spun the car as he desperately tried to get it below the speed limit. That was dramatic stuff for Daniel Stepkowski. Meanwhile, Adam Maguire has pitted. Out of the pit he goes. That means Luke Maguire will once again lead the race. And we'll have a battle on for the lead because they're separated by about half a second. Maguire out in a lot of traffic. We've got Schluter and Watt directly ahead of him. Then again, I think he needed to make a stop, and wherever he came out, whenever he did it, he was always going to find himself in traffic. Here is a battle, Schluter with Tomasz Wok. And what can Maguire do about demoting these guys as quickly as possible? They're going to go 3 wide nearly. They almost get sandwiched. Mark Schluter has the position. Maguire now splits them there on the exit, gets through on Tomasz Wok, running P10. We've got Lalu approaching, that's almost contact there. I think, is that Van der Smissen? It was a car that was, no, Van der Smissen, I'm afraid, is out the race. So we're now down to 25 drivers.
Well, Fournier's out. Fournier's out of the race as well. He's just DNF'd. A little voice called Szymon Frelik just said in my ear there. What happened to Fournier? We'll soon find out, I'm sure. Apparently, they DNF'd at the same time, which may or may not be linked. We'll soon find out, I'm sure. Here comes Luke Maguire into the pits. So, yeah, these two... So, I can now obviously reveal that Adam and Luke are both going to be 4 stopping in this race. So keep an eye out on their stints. And I would say this has not worked for Adam Maguire at all. He's been stuck here for a good portion of the lap now behind Schluter, who is a decent peddler, nearly took a victory at Barcelona earlier in the season. But of course...
And Adam Maguire has come into contact now with Mark Schluter. There's been a collision. He's run straight over the escape road. Doesn't appear to have lost that much time. Hasn't lost his front wing. And Toby, your reaction there was absolutely amazing, but we'll come back to that in a bit. But yes, I'm afraid Adam Maguire has been involved in a collision coming onto that last lap. We're going to have to look at a replay of that. And that could well swing the race back in another direction, possibly towards Luke Maguire. Here's Stefan Roll on a replay, getting close to the back of Jaco-Pekka Lalu's car.
Oh.
But what happened to... Oh,
we've lost Ruo, yeah, we've lost Ruo.
It's a disconnection. Here's Geoffrey Fournier now, possibly...
Oh, is it a mass disconnection? Yeah.
Oh, no.
Look, so, do you know what? Those two, Fournier and Ruo, are both French, obviously. They have that in common. What's going on here?
Up the inside, Schluter doesn't see him.
Yeah, he's just
and there's
across
contact.
him. Yeah, oh, is Ruo Dutch? Oh, I apologise. I'm really sorry. I thought I wrongly assumed he was French with a name like Ruo. Okay, well, never mind. Well, Van der Smissen and Ruo are presumably both Dutch. So I remember this from last season in Superlight. We had it at the Mexican Grand Prix. Both Jake Dennehan and Luke Maguire DNF'd and disconnected at exactly the same time. Both the same internet. So I was just wondering if they were related in some way because of that. But an absolute nightmare for Ruo, and of course Fournier. Van der Smissen was already a lap down, but nevertheless those two both now out of the running.
Matteo Keersmaker saying server crash for some people, I was kicked out too, and of course Matteo will also be in the Netherlands, so it may just be a mass disconnection for the Netherlands, as there are Hugo Poom and Robin Panzer going at it. Jeffrey Fournier says, will it get red flagged? No, I'm afraid not, because normally you need a good, oh goodness, a little bit of contact there. Normally you need, a good, 8 or 9 people to disconnect before you start seeing a race direction considering a restart, but there you go. Hugo Poom, over the sausage, and up the inside, gives the place back to Robin Panzer. There's 5 all squeezing into about 2 spaces into that corner there, and somehow all getting through okay, but there you go.
Yeah, this has not worked for Adam Maguire, and especially Adam Maguire, actually. He's just stuck in this traffic, but Luke Maguire's not doing much better. If you look at the screen there, he's only in P9. I mean, the 4-stop strategy does require you to make overtakes, and a lot of them, and that fresh rubber is obviously a massive part of that. So Adam Maguire's last lap, for example, he was in the low 33. So actually, on this lap, he's done a very, very quick first sector, and he's set to 34.2. So he's actually 1.7 seconds quicker than Carlos Martin in front of him. So it does work, but you've got to battle your way through the traffic, and that's Dennehan pits, by the way. So Dennehan pits from P3. So he made it all the way to P3. Obviously, we saw Tom Stevens pit a couple of laps ago. Those two both on that 4-stop strategy from here. They have to be. It's going to be a real battle for those two guys for the rest of this race. I'd imagine they both got substantial damage, and Maguire has overdone that quite a lot, actually. Yeah,
Martin going back through, so this has not been the best few laps for Adam Maguire. Now, he'll be heartened to see that he's
Why is he fighting him? Why is he fighting him quite... Yeah, I don't...
Look at that.
Yeah, I don't know why he's fighting. He's almost 2 seconds lap slow. I mean, obviously, you're entitled to do whatever you want. Yeah, I've got to take my bias specs off there a little bit, but if you're 1.7 seconds lap slow, it's just going to harm your own race, and he's just...
contact!
Yeah, that was, I'm afraid, predictable. I think Maguire should be giving that one back, personally, but I don't know why Martin's fighting it so hard. It's just going to harm your own race. But there we are. Wants his moment in the sun, I suppose.
Indeed. Well, thank you for treating that unbiased, because yes, I think Maguire has rather given him the bump and run there. But Carlos not doing his best job to endear himself to Adam there. But like you said, I mean, he's entitled to that position. Now here's a replay of the move in quotation marks.
You report that as a slam dunk, so I don't really. I mean, Maguire just needs to let that back through. But there we are. Oh,
Oops.
and Shuley didn't keep out of the wall.
No, front wing goes flying, I'm afraid. So there goes Aris Masculi. Now, I think he's going to have another incident there. Yeah, so misjudges the speed at which he carries into that corner. I'm afraid he'll be out of the race. Now, I should point out as well that Justin van der Smitten is going to be our underdog hero of the day. He's managed to resume the race. He's still in last position because he's not yet made up a place on the other DNS. Oh, now he has. He's passed Stefan Rohr. So Justin van der Smitten is still running the race. And obviously he heard what I was saying earlier about if he finishes the race, then no one can take that away from him. Since this first GPWC Super League race, and he can always say, I finished my first win. So he has rejoined the race, and unfortunately I don't know if any of the other disconnects will feel the same need to. But anyway, the race continues. Here's Matthias Moos running in 4th position behind Carlos Martin. Martin, who didn't do anything wrong from a rulebook point of view there, although you've kind of got to use your head sometimes in racing. He'll be very aggressive as a driver today.
So, interesting. So I know. Well, I don't know if it's interesting, but I think Grangfist is 3-stopping, and obviously the difference in lap time between first and second 1.6 to Adam Maguire, who's lapping 1.6 quicker. So those two strategies are going to converge. This is probably the most interesting thing of this race, was when that 3-stop to 4-stop strat would converge. Jan Grangfist leading by 12 seconds. We're not quite at halfway, and the pit stop's 25 seconds. So I'd still bank on Maguire making up the gap he needs to. It's just whether the likes of Luke Maguire behind him, and of course, Maguire, both Maguires on that 4-stop strategy, we know that now, as is Stevens and Dennehan, whether they can make up the time to actually catch Grangfist. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. And Ruben Macheda and Stevens very close together. These two very close together as well. Pushka has pushed him, I would say, into the wall, and through goes Macheda, through goes Stevens.
Yep, little tight there, and the wall came very fast up to them, and through has gone Tom Stevens. So here's a replay of what's just taken place. This is between Philip Pushke and Hygo Poom. We're on board with Philip Pushke. Takes a look to the inside, coming down into what is officially turn 7 apparently. And then we switch to Hygo Poom's view as he finds the road very quickly disappearing there.
Yeah. Now, Pushka's way too late on the brakes there, and Poom honestly deserved a lot more room than that. Macheda and obviously Stevens, they have boxed, they've got much fresher tyres, so this is kind of a one-sided battle, this particular one. But nevertheless, they've still got to get through this traffic, and this is holding Stevens up a lot. And Dennehan, so Stevens boxed 2 laps before Dennehan. Look at the gap he's got now. They were within a couple of seconds, actually. But Dennehan's now, what is he, 6 seconds, 5 seconds back of Stevens? Shows how powerful that undercut really is.
Here's Ruben Machedi, P11. And this is the troop of cars formed by that incident on the last lap. Adam Maguire now leads by 6 seconds from Matthias Moos. And by the time Luke Maguire gets through, that gap would have extended. So even though he had an incident with Mark Schluter a few laps ago, the gap is still extending. Oh, Machedi gets up onto the curb, and that curb is a little daunting today. You can see basically every time a car runs over, the rear end steps out.
Yeah, Pushka.
I'm starting to wonder if it's only a matter of time before we see someone spinning across the track on the exit of that corner. But
I would like to see that again, Caitlin, because I think Pushka, and again, I'm trying to take my biased hat off here, but I don't think Pushka left enough room. You can't push someone onto a curb that's likely to cause an incident like that. The curbs are racing road. It was really tight. It was one of those 50-50 ones, but that could have been a much bigger problem than it actually ended up being. Pushka's had a rough couple of laps. Needs to calm his head a little bit, I would say.
The trouble is that here at GPVWC, we tend to treat curbs with a little bit more leeway than a lot of series do in real life. If drivers do make a move and they slightly go over the white line but they're still on the curb, usually that's okay. It does depend on the race director's notes before the actual meeting itself, but usually that's okay. The only difficulty down here, as we watch it from on board with Ruben Machete, is that that curb is particularly difficult. It really does seem to spit cars around. And I think drivers have quickly learned that it's not somewhere you can realistically hang the car. But anyway, here's Jan Grankvist on Mark Schluter up the inside.
So we've missed, we've missed this, but Grankvist has boxed, and that's going to be a tough ask to make it to the end. He's done 16 laps on the hards with, what's he got, 20, he's got 35 left, so he'd have to do 17 and 18 in the next 2 stints to make the 3-stop work. That's a big extension to that stint, so a long way to go for Grankvist to make that 3-stop work.
And that's the big disadvantage of starting on soft tyres. Is that another penalty for Daniel Stepkowski? That looks like his second penalty of the day that just came up on our screen there. What a shocker. But anyway, that's the disadvantage of starting on the soft tyres. Realistically, to do a 3-stopper, you've got to start on the mediums or the hards. And as I'm speaking, I've just noticed it's actually York Shukes out of the race as well. So that'll be what the yellow flags we just saw were for. Now he's only just come out of the pit lane. Apparently Chris Shepherd out of the race as well. Now we're watching a replay of Luke Maguire making a move, going up into 2nd position from Matthias Moos there. And then there is what happened to Chris Shepherd. So he's lost his rear wing already at this point. He's obviously backed it into the wall somewhere, and getting back to the pits in that position is always going to be a tough ask. But as Edward Hunter says in the YouTube chat, it does not get better for Stepkowski, it just gets worse. Now that's a fast part of the track where Shepherd's lost it.
Yeah.
It's not usually a place where the car goes around. So
yeah,
unless
how's he done that?
I think, he's clonked the wall on the entry.
And then lost it on the kink.
He doesn't realise he doesn't have a rear wing. I'm sure someone did that in FS1 the other day, didn't they? But anyway, didn't realise that he didn't have a rear wing. Hit the wall even more, did more damage, and out of the race he went. Matthias Moos now back onto the road, so he resumes the race. And straight into the side of another car. Straight into the side of one of the HRT. And is that why York Shukes is out there?
Well, Shukes still has, that's HRT actually, not an Adonis, but...
Oh, you're right, sorry.
It's Palent, sorry, yeah, so that's Moose, yeah. That wasn't the best, was it? So hopefully those two haven't got too much damage and they can continue. Matthew Williams is having a strong drive, isn't he? He's on that 3-stop hard, extend the hard stints strategy, as is Schluter. But they're genuinely, if Grankvist is on that 3-stop strategy as well, they're genuinely doing quite well. Of course, they're coming to the end of this stint, but nevertheless, keep an eye out on those guys to stick a set of mediums on towards the end, potentially trying to fight their way back. Look how much time Stevens has lost.
Yeah, Stepkowski now out of the race, I'm afraid. Sorry, just to butt in. Stepkowski is now out, so he doesn't have to worry about taking that second penalty. I think he's probably rage quit there, I'm afraid to say.
Yeah, well, I don't blame him. He's had a really rough race, Stepkowski, so... save the engine for another day.
Denahan right behind Stevens now, says Ed Hunter, and you're absolutely right, they are right together. So these are Maguire and Grankvist teammates, but indeed, or at least Maguire is Stevens' teammate. But yeah, Jake Denahan right behind Tom Stevens, and in traffic as well. These are the championship leaders. Remember, Denahan has a 3-point advantage going into this race, and wouldn't Stevens love to hold him back here? Wouldn't he love for a penalty to go the way of Jake Denahan at the end of this race? That's still a possibility, of course. I'm afraid to say... Oh dear, that was a bit of a run over the curbs. I'm afraid to say that as much as I've been enjoying this, it hasn't been the cleanest of races from, well, anyone really.
No.
I'm sure there are drivers out there that are blameless. But here comes Grankvist on the outside of Luke Maguire into the brand new overtaking opportunity.
They've got to give each other room.
Yeah. They touch wheels, and somehow Maguire still fends it off. I really thought Grankvist was going to get it there, but great defensive driving from Luke Maguire.
Yeah, that was right on the edge, though. I don't know if Maguire didn't quite give him enough room, to be fair there. That'll be... I'd like to look at that again. I think Grankvist deserved a bit more room than he got, and Maguire sort of bounced over the curb and into him. But we'll see it again. It's a difficult angle to watch from here, because the track cam kind of has the fence in the way, but it's right up on the edge of adhesion there through there, and Maguire bounces across the curb, and they did make a tiny bit of contact. No, it's okay actually.
Yeah, no, I think that's good fair racing. I don't think there's any incident to report on. I know we've sounded a bit critical in this race so far, but I do have to admit this has not been the best display of driving from the GPVWC Super League guys. And I very much hope that as we head into the second half of the race, they all use their heads a little bit more and lose some of that red mist. We've got a long race ahead of us. Here is that move, Jan Granqvist now up the inside of Luke Maguire. They by down towards turn 7, and this must have been another occasion where over the curb.
That's no different to when Macheda was pushed there from Pushka, and Maguire kind of did the exact same thing, to be honest. That curb, and he's let him through. That'll be a sensible thing that Maguire's done there, because he definitely didn't give him enough room. Fair play to Luke for letting him through, knowing he made that mistake. And through then goes Jan Granqvist to P2.
So Granqvist second now. The gap to the lead is 10 seconds. So Adam Maguire getting away despite the issues he's had in this race, including the contact with Mark Schluter. So through he goes to a 10-second lead. No DRS on this lap, of course. He's not behind anyone on the road. Granqvist with a very quick lap, actually. Even with the issues that they had, still in the 134s, and with the potential to even faster, I presume.
Yeah, so his tyres are obviously 5 laps fresher than Luke's, and 6 laps fresher than Adam's. So maybe he's switching his strat to go to that 4-stop now. I mean, that would be viable from here. I mean, obviously everyone ahead of him, well, sorry, everyone being Adam, but Adam and Luke both have to make the exact same number of stops then. And he's got the fresher tyres now to the end. Maybe he's switching to a 4, because he could do either from here. He could do either a 3 or a 4 stop to the end. If he pushes hard on these tyres now, he could maybe catch that gap. He could still be a threat.
Who is this getting involved now? Shirtzik, Lino and Pollens for the last points paying positions. And we're going to see a replay of Fabian Shirtzik now. So has something just happened to this bunch of cars that we haven't yet seen? Down into the corner.
Yeah, that's a very late move, and then he sort of pushed him wide onto the curb there. So that was Pollens, wasn't it, in the HRT? That was a little bit late.
Never a good feeling when you're riding on board with someone and suddenly a tyre appears on one side of your screen. Ed Hunter points out that, to be fair, this is not encourages clean racing since it's harder to overtake. And while that might be true, I don't really like the attitude, because this is no criticism. This is no criticism of you or your comment, Ed, but I feel like a lot of drivers come into races like this with that attitude, either consciously or subconsciously, and that's not the way to do it. I've seen people in the past racing as if... So, take for example, Adam Maguire earlier on, when he sort of punted Carlos Martin out of the way.
Yeah.
The attitude going into that was very much, he's holding me up, I need to be through.
No, I agree.
But the thing is, if you can't get ahead of someone clean, then your duty as a racing driver is to sit behind them. And I know that hurts because, as you know, a famous man once said, if you no longer go for a gap, you're no longer blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, if the gap's just not there, you can't go through. Well,
the thing is, Caitlin, in that specific instance, and obviously I was speaking from the point of view of Carlos Martin, why is he, he's 1.7 seconds up, why is he battling so hard? But equally, Adam Maguire doesn't have to push his way through there either. He knows he's got the rubber. He can wait, delay his overtake, be patient for the next straight, stick a bunch of push to pass on in the next DRS zone and be away there. So, yeah, it was very impatient from Adam Maguire. He obviously lost his head a little bit, and frankly, if that gets reported, it's a slam dunk penalty and he deserves it. So, hopefully, now I'm going to put my bias tab back on. Hopefully, it doesn't get reported, but nevertheless. If it does, he should have no complaints about getting a penalty for that, and it's just not necessary to be that aggressive. If you're faster than someone, just overtake them sensibly. It doesn't. I mean, he's 6.6 seconds out in the lead of this race. It's not like he's particularly struggling for battling right now, is it? So, yeah, sometimes it's better to just be a bit more patient than that.
Hunter into the pits, and yes, Ed Hunter, I totally agree with what you just said about the famous quote being, Not exactly the most innocent quotes right from the get-go, but anyway, I always like to bring that up to people. And you took my meeting as well. The racing is only as clean as the driver's mentality, and I totally agree with that. It's a bit of a shame, really, the way that we're talking about this race at the minute, because for a lot of drivers, this has been a very good race. Completely blameless, for example, are the likes of Yang and Luke Maguire actually has driven a good race as well. Plenty of drivers being completely innocent here, making up positions as they can, as they see worthy. Great to see Justin van der Smissen as well, still pushing on in this race. 20 cars remaining, and if only 5 more people DNF in the second half of this race, which is doable, then a point is still very much up for grabs there. So cleanliness does pay off sometimes, and we shouldn't, as much as it can be disappointing when playing cleanly. We do have to acknowledge at the end of the day that there are also some completely blameless drivers out there who are just doing what they do.
Mercedes on an interesting strategy. He's done 8 laps on his first stint, and he's just done 2 12s on the hard tyre. So he's 30 laps through. He's going to struggle to get to the end on 4 stops. It'll be a real battle for him to get to the end on 4 stops. These two, by the way, that we're looking at right now, they're both looking, realistically, they're looking at 5th and 6th where they're at right now as their best possible result. And it requires the likes of Matthew Williams. Who else has boxed recently? We've got Matthew Williams, who's on that long 3-stop strategy, and as well we've also got Robin Panzar in P12. Here's Pushka, by the way, and he's behind Ruben Macheda. Frankly, I think Pushka has been involved in a couple of incidents this race, and it's and we're about to see another one potentially. Here's a replay. Oh, it's Palent we're watching here.
Onto the start finish straight, and then we look a little further along. That's okay, replays are difficult things. Here's Giuseppe Lino running P13 as we look, and a spin. Oh, a good save actually, very good save for Pascal Polens. Keeps it out of the barriers. You will lose a position or two, but you know, that's better than losing your front wing. And then of course there's a big gaggle of cars going down into turn 7. They all keep it clean this time. Tom Stevens, meanwhile, is in the pits. That'll be from 5th position in the race. Justin van der Smissen still running. Hopefully that's not going to change in this clip. Come on, Justin. And runs down an escape road. Backs it up. Get it going. There we go.
Stevens in. That's early as well. He'll also struggle to get to the end on that 4-stop. And look at that. Macheda has come out right in front of him. So Jake Dennehan now then, if Jake Dennehan boxes like this lap, he could really threaten Stevens just on an overcut, considering how Macheda's not exactly done the world's greatest outlap in amongst that traffic, and he's going to have to throw it up the inside of Lino here if he wants any chance of staying ahead of Dennehan, and does so. So it makes a good move there. Stevens will want to make a move very quickly himself, and that's not where you want to do it.
Well, remember how early Stevens pitted for his very first stop of the race after the collision with Dennehan. Surely at that point, a 4-stop strategy was the best case scenario. I mean, you must have been thinking, God, I'm going to have to make 5 stops today. So we've got to wait and see what ends up actually happening. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the... apparently we missed Adam Maguire coming in, so Jan Grandfit now leads this race.
This will be interesting. So just on a strategy point of view here now. So Grankvist in the lead, doing 33.8s. What does he do? Does he extend now? Does he go to lap 17? I say lap 17. 17th lap on his tyres, as Stevens does make that move now, but it's probably a day late and $1 short, to be honest with you. Dennehan does stay out, however, so Dennehan trying to make a longer stint work on these tyres. He might be trying to go to a medium at the end, maybe be a bit aggressive. That's probably not a bad idea from this point, to be fair. But so Grankvist has 2 options. He can either go another 6 lap on these tyres or risk being caught by Maguire in that process. yeah, if you're Jan Grankvist, you kind of got to stop now to switch to the 4-stop and be back on sync with Maguire, not lose too much time, or you choose to stay out and try and make that 3-stop work. Let's keep an eye on Grankvist from that point of view. It's a tricky one to call.
Indeed. Sorry, I'm being completely distracted by the comments section now. It's turning into a bit of a war zone, but in the friendliest way possible. So keep it up, guys. Keeping me entertained as the race goes along. Here's Jan Grankvist leading the race, 13 seconds in hand, although potentially another pit stop. Oh, well, he's going to have to make at least one, obviously. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Toby. At this point, there are drivers with options, and there are drivers running out of options. And the net order really appears to be down to how the drivers are feeling at any given time. So Jan Grankvist is leading the race at this point in time. Will he stay there? Will he have the advantage coming up to the end of the race? We really don't know, and I'm very glad that you've kept an eye on how long they've been out on this particular stint, because that's going to be something that will factor into the end of this race as well.
Ooh, Maguire, Adam Maguire's just done a 32.3, 1.7 seconds faster than Jan Grankvist.
That's fast. That's the fastest lap of the race so far, but we've got Florian Gaia off the road. But yeah, Adam Maguire, fastest lap of the race so far. Other than getting an extra point for that, if he keeps it to the end of this race. That also puts pressure on Jan Grankvist, because Adam's showing, he's feeling a bit inevitable right now. Here's Florian Gaia, and around he goes.
I'm confused by Dennehan's strategy, to be honest. I assume he's going to want to try and do a medium stint at the end, but from my information, the mediums are just rubbish. They're not as bad as the softs, but they're equally as bad. They just don't do. They do 6 laps, and they're fractionally faster than the hards, but only 3 or 4 tenths a lap is not anything to write home about. He's currently doing 33.7s, so he's 1.4 seconds slower than Adam Maguire, and even Stevens with damage is 7 tenths faster than that, and quite significantly more on this lap. It's going to be more like a second. So Dennehan's just throwing away track position here for what? A shot at mediums to the end of the race? I mean, from my info, they're not a good race tire at all, but we'll see. To be fair, he was behind Macheda and Stevens and significantly ahead of anyone else. So he was looking at maybe 6th position, and now this is perhaps he feels this is his only chance at trying to get past those two.
Yeah, definitely. It's well, the trouble with the thing with Dennehan is he doesn't actually need to go into the medium tyres, because he started the race on softs. You only need to use 2 compounds of tyre, and we started referring to using all 3 tyre compounds as the Trinity this year, because it's actually quite unusual. As wide there, that was just the driver getting out of the way, I think. Yeah, Florian Gaia being... No, it's... Oh yeah, it's Florian Gaia being lapped, my apologies. But yeah, only the drivers who actually started off haven't used the mediums yet, still have to use the medium tyres. And judging by how the tyres are in this race, I think you want to spend as much time on the hards as you possibly can. Here's Robin Panther now. He'll have the DRS from Jakub Lali. It's also worth noting that a lot of the drivers out there are on their fastest lap that they've had of the race so far. So the track looking pretty quick, the drivers pushing on. So even though tyre conservation will be on their mind, their lap times taking forefront, and the 2 fastest drivers on track right now are actually the 2 Maguires. So Adam and Luke, both in the 1:32s. Those are lap times that most of the other drivers aren't making. You need 3 more.
Yeah, they're very quick, and they're pushing hard on that 4-stop strategy, aren't they? I don't think Grankvist is doing it. He is committed now, I think, to that 3-stop. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
Maguire's less than 10 seconds back. Obviously, Grankvist has 1 stop to make. So does Maguire. So, it's. But over the course of the next, how long's Grankvist got left on those tyres? At least 4 or 5 laps, at least. He would have to do where are we? We've got 23 laps left. He's going to have to do 4 more laps minimum. Probably 5, and do 2 lots of 18 laps to the end. We only managed 16 laps on his first stint on the hard, so I don't see it. Personally, I don't see it. That's a very, very long, arduous couple of stints for Grankvist to pull that off. And Maguire will be on him kind of by the end of these laps anyway, with them both stop left to make, but Maguire significantly will be later in the race and he'll have fresher tyres.
There's definitely not enough time to feasibly make two more stops in this race, unless you're unless you're planning to go for another medium stint, or I doubt anyone's going to go for a soft stint at the end, but you really could. Here's Luke Maguire now on the back of Carlos Martin, who's demonstrated that he's here to race, doesn't want to get out of anyone's way. To be honest, why should he? Here comes Luke Maguire. He'll have the DRS, and this is the prime overtaking opportunity of the lap here, where the drivers really use that slingshot effect to their advantage, and they can get the inside line. It's also one of the absolute black spots of the track, so take it easy, guys, but Luke not quite close enough that time to get through on Carlos Martin. And also down the straight now, we're looking at Ruben Machedi behind Jukka-Pekka Lalu and Robin Panzer. Lalu once again demonstrating his consistency. He's been quietly working his way up in this race. Some more fast laps coming in as well. We just had another driver in the 132, Giuseppe Lino actually, in the Pescara. Very impressive lap. Looks as if Pascal Pollins has had an incident, missing his front wing there, and goes straight on as a result of that. Over the escape road, over the sausage curb. But yeah, he'd already had an incident coming up to that point. And unfortunately, he appears to be retiring the car now. So here's Luke Maguire back to that P3 battle. To the outside of Carlos Martin. We're still on replay, I believe. That's because, there we go, gets the switchback and through he goes. So Maguire does now clear Carlos Martin. But yeah, Toby, we were unfortunately just in Pollins has retired from the race.
Yes.
So we now have 18 drivers left. 17 of those on the lead lap.
It's a race of attrition. It always is at a street track. It's so easy to make a mistake, and there's lots of things to hit. But of course, you do want to get as many points as you can in this race, and the only way you can do that is by finishing the race. So I do think you should stick it out, and Van der Smissen could easily still score points in this race just by finishing, even though he's 2 laps down, which would be a mega achievement. Yeah, keep an eye on that. This is an interesting gaggle of cars, is it not? We've got freshly rubbered Mercedes, well, at least 7 laps old tyres versus Moose, who's on 13 laps old tyres. So plenty of racing left to be done on the tyres for Mercedes and Stevens behind. But in front of them, yeah, worn rubber. This is holding them up nicely. I would think at this stage, Danahan's extending his stints to a 3-stop. So
yeah, Sad Mofu in the YouTube chat, sorry, has said that as well. Jake Deshore trying a 3-stop. But does that include his early stop as well?
Well, no. So yes, so it would be overall a 3-stop. His early stop being on lap 5. He probably wanted to get to 8 or 9. So very long stints on those hards to the end from here would be a struggle. But if you look at where he is, he's doing 35 zeros. It's not like these guys here, Stevens, well, I say that, Stevens and Macheda are in 33 sixes. So how much faster they can go from here, I don't know. But there's still 20 laps left in this race. Denahan doing the same amount of stops left in this race as Macheda and Stevens, who have got best part of 16 seconds to make up. It's a lot of seconds, but if you're a second a lap faster, you're gonna catch, aren't you? So
yeah, well, who's this? Jukka-Pekka Lalu around the outside of Matthias Weiss. Through he goes, nicely done. You're right, actually. I hadn't noticed quite how long Denahan's stints have actually been. But even if you look at the likes of Grankvist, they both stopped, or at least Denahan stopped slightly early. His second stint was 17 laps to Grankvist 16. His third stint, 19 laps to Grankvist 16. So he is making those laps back. And even though there were 4 laps difference in the first stint, Jake is now out there with, with Luke Maguire right alongside him. Look at that! Luke Maguire up the inside, goes through, and there was no stopping that. Luke, of course, on the fresh.
Oh, Maguire's in. Danahan in. Oh, he's got ages to go on that final stint. He's done 19 laps, but that first sector on that lap was 7/10 slower than what Macheda and Stevens were doing.
Yeah.
He's going to come out a country mile behind them, of course, on fresh rubber, but with 19 laps to do in the final stint, that is a long time. That's a long time.
He can do it.
He can. It's physically possible. Like, don't get me wrong, the 3-stop is physically possible, but is it going to be quicker than those 4-stoppers? That is the key. Danahan, we know, had really good pace here as well, so if anyone's going to make that work, it's going to be him. But that's all of that said, he's got a lot of time to travel here to get to the end.
And well done for calling that as well. Sad move through. Well done. Back to the. Sorry, once again being completely distracted by the YouTube chat. You guys are a whole bunch of gremlins today, but there you go. Jake is my goat, I believe, says Owen Gorgie. Yes, indeed. He's done well to go for the 3-stop strategy there, especially after the opening lap incident. Normally, you'd expect to see drivers dropping right back up, going for as many stops as they feel like, but Jake Danahan committing to the 3-stop still, and is out there in 12th position. Will make up some places, and Grankvist is in. So Grankvist pits, and that means that Adam Maguire now wins the race. So everyone who comes in from this point on will be going to the end of the race on this stint. That's just how the strategy works. And Grankvist has, again, a long time to go, but once again, absolutely can do it. Adam Maguire up into first, Luke Maguire through into second place, and we're reckoning those guys stop once more as well, right?
Yes, 100%. They will have to. The way they've been pushing their tyres, absolutely. Adam Maguire extended slightly his previous stint. He is going to be pitting, I would say, in the next 3 laps. So Grankvist is not going to get a massive undercut on him. Kind of the longer Maguire stays out here, the better his pace will be in that final stint to try to make that sort of 5 or 6 seconds up that he will need to. But he kind of has Luke Maguire now as a defender. But Grankvist has made that 3-stop work. It's actually proven to be slightly better in this kind of... I don't know if the night is, maybe it's a little bit darker, a little bit colder, but the tyres are lasting just that little bit longer than perhaps I had information for in our testing, and it shows that the 3-stop is a viable strat. Is it faster? Don't know. Tom Stevens looks like he'd run out of rears ages ago. By the way, he's slaloming his way over the Anderson Bridge that time around.
Track temperature, by the way, 22 degrees Celsius, so it's not exactly
chilly.
Cold.
No, that's chilly for Singapore temps, defo.
For Singapore,
yeah. That's lower than I think we had in the practice sessions and so on. So.
Oh, he's that. Looks like Williams made a mistake there. Shalita going straight through. What I was going to say is it's not exactly chilly, but for Singapore temperatures, it's not as much as you would expect. 29 ambient, so 22 was the track temperature. So here's a replay of. So it looks like it wasn't really a mistake for Williams. He went for the move, and then they swapped back again. Runs wide, but Shalita back through. Fair racing there. And Mark played that pretty well. Now of course the question, this is Danahan on Moose. Now of course the question is, where's Grankvist going to come out in relation to Maguire and Maguire? And does Jan indeed have the net lead of the race, as he looked to?
Well, he will. He definitely will. He's the pit delta's about 24-25 seconds. Grankvist 17 off the lead, so it'll be up to Maguire to catch those 7 seconds in that final stint. The thing is, Grankvist
has the track position, but the Maguires will have much fresher tyres.
They will. Well, I think Luke won't catch him because he's going to have to make up an additional 14 seconds. But Grankvist's stints has been very impressive. Maguire needs to, Adam needs to offset his stint now a couple more laps, so he has that ability to catch, and he's got to hope and that his brother does his best to hold up Jan Grankvist at this point. But I would say Jan actually is in the driving seat here. It's worked out nicely for him, and I think it's going to work out pretty well for Jake Dennehan as well. He's not that far behind Stevens, who probably has to make an additional. Well, he does definitely have to make an additional stop at this stage. And yeah, I think Dennehan could easily get through by past Macheda and Stevens in this stint. So the 3 stops and the 4 stops are converging, but I think that was tight, wasn't it? But what do you think of that one, Caitlin? I don't think Maguire really moved. It's just Grankvist expected him to defend.
Oh, look at that! Grankvist getting side by side or sideways there over the curve. Yeah, that was quite something there. But yeah, well done to Jan Grankvist. He made up a lot of time in that last stint. That was really the first time this race where we really started to see him as having the advantage for real. Also, thank you to Alex Foltz in the YouTube chat for letting me know about the Discord notifications. I didn't know those were coming through, so I set myself to do not disturb now. Yeah, thank you for that. But anyway, back to the race. The longer, they're side by side, I think. Grankvist and Maguire, there you are. The longer loop stays, and he's through. Jan Grankvist is through on Luke Maguire. But yeah, the longer Luke had stayed ahead of Jan, the more time he would have lost. Now it's up to Adam Maguire. Here's a replay of the move.
Yeah, so this one I think. Okay, we're going to watch the actual move first. So this is in the DRS zone. Maguire, I think, has let him through again, hasn't he? You see, at this time, I don't think Maguire really pushed him. Like the first time, he defo pushed him onto the curb on the exit of the corner. This time, I feel like there was enough room and Grankvist went there by himself. I'd like to see that again, ideally. Here we go. So, as they went towards... Where are we on the lap here? Yeah, so as we came down here, so Maguire goes and stays left to defend. Grankvist, I assume, thinks he's going to go... Yeah, that's fine. But down into this corner, so Grankvist on the rubber, brakes later. He's only just got an overlap. It's not great, actually. I don't think Maguire really left him enough room there either. But it was not as blatant as the first one, definitely. That was a bit more tight.
Indeed. There's a couple of cars in the pits. Philip Pushke, Hugo Poom, returning to the circuit right together. Talking of right together, it's almost impossible to work out who's going to be 4th, 5th, etc. in this race. We've really been focusing on the top 3 drivers, Maguire, Grankvist and Maguire, but the race further back is pretty much anyone's game. Stevens and Dennehan are going to be right in that mix at the end as well, aren't they? They've had quite a recovery drive. We knew they had to in this race.
Lalu's doing a job here for Dennehan. I'm not saying that's a thing, but
Adam Maguire's in the pits, sorry.
Right, so here we go. So this is now, can Maguire catch that lead back up? It's going to be around 10 seconds, but there's 14 laps.
Came in.
Yeah, so this is the strat. So there's 14 laps left. He's got to be careful not to cut that pit exit line and doesn't. So well done, Adam. But he now has, what's his gap to Grankvist? It's going to be around 10 seconds, I would say. It's going to be a bit less than that, actually. He's got 14 laps to make that up. And we know Grankvist is quick right now. But can Maguire make that work? And Stevens has jumped Macheda in the pits, look. And that's going to be tight.
Ooh,
and they've got away with that. Yep. So, yeah. So that was very... Oh, as Macheda's hit the wall.
Yeah, tagged the wall on pit exit. That was strange.
It is very tight.
There, so they were always going to let each other go. But yeah, very tight pit exit. And
it's so tight down there, yeah. Yeah, so as Macheda boxed, perhaps just slightly late in his box or something, but Tom must have nailed it a bit better. And Tom released slightly early, side by side as they exit the pit lane. And yeah, pretty clear that one of them had to let the other go there. And that is what happened. And then Macheda, as he comes around the left-hander, tags the wall.
Damn, well, hopefully not too much damage from that, but anyway, resumes the race. Didn't end up going for a spin or anything like that. 13 laps to go now. 6 seconds is the gap for the lead between Grankvist and Maguire. It is definitely doable. I think we can have quite a race for the lead at the end of this one. Luke Maguire as well has a lot of time to make up. He's got to get past Dennehan as well.
Wow.
Luke Maguire came out behind Jake Dennehan, and that means his charge for the podium has just got harder. Brief yellow flag, but we carry on.
I think Maguire, Maguire will get Dennehan. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah.
It's the Adam versus Jan battle that's the one that's exciting for me, because there's 13 laps left. The gap is 6 seconds, as you say. That he will have to do him on track. It's going to be close.
So who's going to be fourth? That's tricky.
Well, your guess is as good as mine there, my friend.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Lalu's on a counter strategy. He's about to box for mediums. I think that takes him out of the running. Panzar is the same. They're both going to drop back behind Martin, Luke, Maguire, Jake Dennehan. They're going to drop back quite a bit. Matthew Williams is the most advanced driver. He's had such a good race in what is a very underdeveloped car for mode. He's had a great race, actually. Very impressed by Matthew Williams today. It's Dennehan, I think, is the most likely person, to be honest, to finish fourth.
Right.
Which would be astonishing from where he fell down the grid and two after that lap 1 incident.
Yeah, very impressive. He's worked his way back up, hasn't he? Here's Lally now on the back of Panzer. Look at Panzer up 12 position. Admittedly, some of that is because, yeah, as you can see, on his way into the pits, but still a strong stint from Robin there. Now Lali's up 10. 12 laps to go in this race. We're seeing the last few pit stops coming in. And there's a car without a front wing in there. Who's that?
Yeah,
it's,
Justin van der Smissen again, unfortunately.
So it is. Still running though. Props to him. Come on, Justin.
Yeah, out he goes again. Oh, and look at this. So Panzar just going to come out behind Ruben Macheda, look, with, what, 2 laps fresher tyres? So Panzar could get Macheda, actually. And by extension, therefore, fight his way back towards Stevens on those mediums. But I just don't rate them as tyres. By the end of the race, they won't be as good as these hards.
No, and 12 laps is quite a long way to go on them. It's about what they did earlier on, but that was only because the drivers who started on mediums didn't start on the hard tyres. But anyway, here is Robin Panzer on the tail of Ruben Machete, and you're right, he could well get past him. He'd be into the top 10 if he did that. Aviation Chad says, when did Jan get into the lead? The truth is that he worked his way there through strategy. It was only in the last stint that we really started to consider Jan as being the true race leader. He has done 3 stops in this race so far, and Maguire behind him, who of course was ahead of him in front, has done 4 stops, which means that Jan got ahead of him by virtue of having stopped less. What happened, sorry?
I don't know. Szymon made an excited noise in our ear then. Don't know what.
Yeah, I think Van der Smith may have hit the ball or something. But anyway, but yeah, so it was only in the last stint when we started to realise just how long Grankvist was going to go in that stint. We started to realise that he had the net lead, and that is why he's leading the race now. Yeah, Savruko saying Adam has done 1 more stop, I believe. That is absolutely true. Alex Folks says Justin's luck with GPVWC just hasn't existed this season. I feel bad for him. That's true. Although this, I mean, like I said, it's always going to be a big ask to do Singapore as your very first GPVWC Super League race, and it's also quite a big step up as well because he never did Superleague. He's come straight from the Formula Sprint 1 and Formula Sprint 2 Championship. He does have a podium in Formula Sprint 2. Came second in race 2 at Saudi Arabia earlier this year, and he also got a podium in the Academy Series. But yeah, no victories in his name just yet. But even so, going straight from Formula Sprint 2 and Formula Sprint 1 to Super League, and then going to Singapore for your very first outing. Yeah, of course he's drunk today. I think that was a given, and it would have been a bonus if he'd actually done well. But there you go.
Adam Maguire is pushing very hard. He's done his best lap of his race, 31.6. He's a second a lap faster right now than Jan Grankvist. So we'll be on him in a couple of laps. He's got to be careful he doesn't take too much out of those tyres. But considering Grankvist only boxed 4 laps before him, but it just shows how powerful a fresh set of tyres is around this track. They're so soft. Even the hard tyres is the C3 compound, which at some races this season's been the soft. So there's such a soft compound. You've got a kind of a magic window of a few laps at the start of each stint, and that's what's happening here with Maguire. He's gaining hand over fist.
This race has felt like an age, but it is drawing to a dramatic conclusion. Maguire is now within second of Jan Grankvist. Before long, he will get the DRS, and I've no doubt we're going to see a fight for the lead. Panzer, keep the car roll, and he wallops the barriers. He's lost his front wing, so Robin Panzer is, I'm afraid, now out of contention for serious points in this race. And I said it wasn't going to be long before that curb spat someone out. It has spat Robin Panzer. So here's a replay. He goes for a move on Ruben Machete, goes to the outside. He's going to find that really nasty curb, clonks the wall, and then it gives an acceleration.
Yeah,
he loses control. And it's a hard hit on the opposite barrier as well.
He kind of made enough to be alongside Machete, but it was such a late dive. But then it was all kind of could have been recoverable. Machete probably should have let him back through, but then Panzer sort of hit the wall and span of his own accord. I don't really... So this dive here, Machete can't have been expecting him to even get alongside there, but nevertheless he did. Yeah,
and
that was so tight.
For all the issues that Justin van der Spitten today, props to him. That was great avoidance there. Yeah. Actually braking at just the right point, releasing the brakes at just the right point to swerve out and dodge the spinning car. Very good, Justin. Top marks.
Here comes Luke Maguire on Jake Dennehan. So this for de facto podium bragging rights. Dennehan on very worn 10-lap-old, well, I say that, worn 10-lap-old tyres versus Luke's worn 5-lap-old tyres. It doesn't sound like a great deal of difference, but I was talking about it just now. It is a big difference, actually. These mediums on Lalu's car, keep an eye on him and his pace as well. Further back, we've got Carlos Martin behind Maguire. He's in his kind of a race of his own. He could actually finish P5 here. He's got a 7-second gap to Schluter, who's being caught quite quickly by Tom Stevens, actually. Stevens is quite quick, and Panzer is DNF'd, so no points for Adonis.
Yeah, that is a double DNF for the Adonis team, and that was a very hard hit on the wall for Panzer, so no real surprise they'll lasting damage. 18 cars remaining in this race now, 16 of those on the lead lap. Anyone could score points. Realistically, only the top 15 will, but there you go. We've got 8 laps remaining in this race, and here is the battle for Adam Maguire is well and truly within DRS range and Grankvist, and he's not just within DRS range, he is right under the gearbox of his opponent now. So this is the battle, and it's starting to look as if Adam Maguire is going to be unstoppable. Here we go down the straight. Maguire will have the advantage. This is Luke Maguire, sorry, up the inside of Jake Dennehan and goes up into 3rd position. That was inevitable, but now we wait to see if the battle. Toby, what do you make of this?
Well, I mean, for me, as an independent commentator, it shows how good the strategies have been today, that they both have worked. I said it sort of in warm-up that they both are viable, absolutely proven with just 8 laps to go that they are converging. You'd have to say, based on the pace that Maguire has had in this particular stint alone, he's caught him so quickly. Maguire's favourite here, but you never know what their push-to-pass situation is like. I feel like Maguire has had to overtake a lot of cars this race, whereas Jan perhaps not so many. So you don't know how many seconds of push-to-pass they've got left, whether they're, how close they've pushed, how far they pushed their tyres in this stint as well. Of course, Maguire pushing hard to catch Grankvist. Probably wants to make this move sooner rather than later, I would say, if he's got a tyre offset and not waste them in the dirty air. So it's going to be fascinating these next few laps to see how much patience Maguire has. We've seen earlier in the race he didn't quite have the patience with Filip Puška. Whether that is going to be the case with Grankvist or not remains to be seen. I know they've been teammates before in other championships outside of GPVWCs. Tom Stevens then on Schluter. This was a move for 6th place, Caitlin.
Nicely done. Both drivers having a good race at this point. Tom Stevens, of course, would have preferred it without the first lap collision, but through he goes. And of course, Mark Schluter will be very pleased with P7 despite losing that place. Aviation Chad saying, I just want to see Jan's absolutely incredible defending, and it will be incredible to fend off Adam Maguire here. 4-second gap smashed, only around 3 laps tight. Adam is all over the tail of Jan Grankvist's car, still less than half a second in it. There's basically no room for error whatsoever. As we head down towards the end of yet another lap of racing, time ticking to a close. It's like the real life Singapore Grand Prix this year, with the Mercedes catching Sainz and Norris. On to lap 56 out of 62 we go. And now we have the situation where Maguire has caught Grankvist, and it's all about actually making that move. Because it's one thing to catch a car, and another thing to pass them. You have to be significantly faster than the other car in order to get the move done, due to how the turbulent air works, and due to the other driver's defensive ability. Now we head down towards turn 7 once again. That's an overtaking opportunity, but it goes past with no change. The DRS slams shut on the back of Adam Maguire's car. We've got another half a lap or so before he gets another DRS opportunity.
Yeah, at this point, Maguire is being patient, but he needs to use that tyre offset, I would say, and be a bit careful over the curbs.
Yeah.
But Grankvist is driving impeccably. He's not exactly making any mistakes, is he? He's obviously put a lot of effort into this particular round, and wants that first GPVWC Super League victory. He is our Superleague champion, as we see Macheda and Williams side by side going through the tight twisty section in the middle of the lap, and Macheda trying to make his way through. In fact, it's Williams, isn't it, on fresher rubber, trying to make his way through past Macheda, and they are still side by side, and through goes Williams.
Through he goes. Matthew Williams up into 8th position, and he's got only about 4 seconds to catch to Mark Schluter up ahead. That's doable. Now here are the leaders once again. Sometimes when a driver can't get past for a few laps in a row, you'll see them backing off for a little bit, maybe cooling the tyres, cooling their own head, and then going for another attack when they feel ready, using the momentum to go through. I think they both grazed the turn 3 on that lap, showing you just how close they are and how hard they're pushing. And Adam Maguire goes for the move, and they touch. He didn't see him potentially. And through goes Adam Maguire. Yeah,
it's once again though, he needs to lane back through, because he's pushed him wide onto the curb, and that's not. You can't do that. You can't just send it down the inside and then push someone wide onto that curb. It seems to be an ongoing thing through this race. We've seen it multiple times, and in my book, that's not fair. Down the inside he goes.
He'll argue that he had the position because he was ahead.
Doesn't matter.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah, in my opinion, that doesn't matter. I think I know you're playing devil's advocate.
And look, they are going to swap. Jan Grankvist goes back through to the lead of the race, and good going there from Adam Maguire to let Jan back through. He's going to do it fairly.
That's the only choice he had. He did not leave a car's width. The GPVWC rules are very clear, and you can't just send it down the inside of someone and crowd them off the track. Unfortunately, this is not Formula One. We like to make it to the end of our races and not just slam people into the walls, and that wasn't a fair move. So kudos to Adam for realising that and giving that place back up, and he's got to do it all over again.
Indeed, and the YouTube chat there seems to be fully in agreement that he needed to give that position back, but you can calm down, guys. He has given the place back, and now we get to see the fight all over again. What will happen on this lap? We're heading down to the place where it all happened. There's a back marker just up the road. That's Justin Van der Smissen, as Robin Pansar is in the pit, so hopefully he resumes the race as well.
Was it a disconnect then for Pansar? Because we saw him, didn't we see him DNF? Has he rejoined the server and rejoined?
I think he might have done, actually. Unless...
Interesting.
Not really sure about that, but anyway, we'll keep an eye on that. Yeah, you're right, because he was out, wasn't he?
Well, I'm sure he was. I'm sure we saw him with a DNF by his name. Well, unless it's a bug. Is it a bug whereby it says he's in the pit, but Oh,
He might just still be on the server for some reason. I think isn't that when he came in a few laps ago, or has he been out and had another?
this is
Okay,
a,
so yeah,
this is when it came in.
His accident, he retires from the pit,
Okay, so it's just saying he's in the pits, but that's probably because he pitted and then escaped to the garage.
and hasn't left the server yet. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Here's Jukka-Pekka Lally in replay on the back of Ruben Machete, and it looks as if a pass is about to be made. So these are the teammates, of course, of Grandfist and Maguire.
That's how you get through that corner. That's
Indeed.
much more. That if that had been the for the lead of the race. Look at this proper crossovers and everything. That's proper racing. And then Lalu gives him room on the exit. Yeah, perfect. That's how you should do it. I don't. We're even trying to make a mess in his mirrors, but yeah, that's how you should get through that corner. I don't. There's no need to slam people wide, unfortunately. As a former champion, Maguire knows that really.
And and here we go. Another. Oh, he takes a look. Did they touch again? That was nearly end plate to tyre contact. But anyway, nice and safe. And by the way, guys in the chat, I completely agree with you about having, being ahead doesn't necessarily mean you have the line. You've still got to give room for people alongside you. And yes, that is slightly different from the Formula One rules. Whether that's a good thing or not is completely up to your own interpretation. The live standings indicate that Jake Denaham by 6 points coming out of this particular round. Grandfist will extend his advantage in third in the championship, and of course this would be his very first GPVWC victory. But his main challenger, so I'm getting the Maguires mixed up, one of his third in the championship is right on his heels, and making it incredibly difficult for him to bring this home. Maguire, though, caught up to the tail of Grandfist's car quite a few laps ago and has not yet been able to overtake. Is this going to be Jan just exhausting all of Adam's options and making him desperate? This is what's going on so far. Adam Maguire still all over the tail of Jan Grandfist, who twitches. Grandfist did not have this exit corner there. Now it's the exit to this corner that's the important one, because this leads on to that DRS straight. You see Grandfist straight over to break that toe.
He's
from
closer this time. He's closer this time. Here comes Maguire around the outside then. And this time, he sweeps through and Maguire takes the lead. I'm sorry, Caitlin, I stole it from you. I stole the moment from you, but I could see it coming. Maguire finally, and that was nice and clean this time round. And kudos to Grandfist for not doing what Maguire did to him. And fair play, Maguire, obviously with a better tyre and the slightly faster overall strategy and makes the move. What a move that was, though.
And that was a fair move, kept it within the lines. We're going to see it from on board with Grandfist there. Gave him easily enough room. Through goes Adam Maguire to the lead of the race. We kind of knew it was coming. Although, to be honest, I was starting to doubt it, the amount that Jan was holding him off, just exhausting his attacks. But Adam Maguire has now gone through to the lead of the race. Jan Grandfist down to second, and Adam does have the better tyres, so I assume he's point. But yeah, the relief in the chat that it's happened without collision is palpable, but down the start finish straight they go once again. We're on to the penultimate lap of the race. The live standings updated. Grandfist would still be third in the championship, as we're looking here at Schluter and Williams. Grandfist would still be third in the championship. Adam Maguire would move past his brother Luke Maguire, and the back of the lead would be 6 seconds. Everything okay there, Szymon? That's what it says. Yeah, the Grandfist.
That's what it says. We're not.
Okay,
you can't hear Szymon. Szymon just went. Jan needs to be on
great.
146 points. So Caitlin's like, that's what it says.
Fair enough. Yeah, sorry about that. I know the chat can't hear it's all a rather one-sided conversation, but you're absolutely right. Jan Grandfist would be on 146 points, and it's gonna hurt. I think Jan Grandfist scoring 6 podiums without a victory, and it looked for so long as if his victory was coming his way, but unfortunately, doesn't appear to be doing so. I have noticed actually the whoever's updating the driver's standings seems to have already declared Adam Maguire as the race winner, getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. But I guess we are close enough to the end of the race that you can just very quickly update it if something is going to happen. But anyway, according to the GPVWC standings, Adam Maguire has already won this race. He's a second ahead of Jan Granqvist now. He's broken out of DRS range as we're on the final lap of this particular race. Jake Dennehan has done a good job to climb up to 4th position. Carlos Martin will be absolutely thrilled with the 5th position, but only if he can hold off Tom Stevens. That's the fight that we're watching now, going on to their final lap of the race.
Yeah, Carlos Martin on 16-lap-old rubber, Tom Stevens on 12, so Tom has a big tyre offset here. So this is crucial, actually, for Tom's championship. He does not want to lose any more points than he can help it against Jake. And, of course, Jake recovering very, very aptly from back of the pack to P4. Obviously, you know, results pending a review, I would say. We'll have to have a look at that after the race. If we can get a replay of that, that would be good, because it is the big talking point. The championship leaders clashing. Oh, he's completely shoved him off wide. Yeah, I mean, Stevens, I think, is well within his rights there to overtake that. They both ran wide. Very Max Verstappen-esque there from Martin.
No, yeah, well, Carlos wasn't going to make that corner, was he? There's Matthew Williams now, much later alongside him. They're fighting over 7th, 8th, and 9th. So the fights are still going right down to the end. Granqvist is still within a second of Maguire on this last lap of the race. Not that I expect it's going to change, but it's going to be a relatively close finish. And through once again, side by side, they're squeezing each other to the wall nearly. We've got Stevens and Martin going at it. We cut away to the Williams-Schluter fight. Stevens keeps 5th position. I'm afraid we've completely missed Adam Maguire across the win. So Maguire wins the race, his 2nd victory of the season. Wonderfully done from Adam Maguire, despite a few scuffles on the way. Jan Granqvist was 2nd, the gap absolutely negligible. Luke Maguire 3rd, Jake Dennehan 4th, then Stevens pulled on to 5th ahead of Carlos Martin. Then Matthew Williams will just about be 6th from Jukka Lalu on the final lap of the race. There we go, across the line. So Lalu 8th, Schluter, Machete, Moose, Wach, Lino, and Schitzer. This replay, and this will be Matthew Williams alongside with Max Schluter, heading across the Anderson Bridge, and up the inside, gets the move done, and that is on the final best time to make an overtake. Satisfying. It feels like your entire race has gone to plan, no matter what position you're fighting for. But there you go. The gap for the win in the end was 1 second, 1.075. So a very tight race. Maguire and Granqvist gave us quite a show, and Granqvist will have to wait another race longer for first victory. Surely it's coming soon. You don't have 6 victories, 6 podiums in one season without a win coming your way.
This is interesting.
Podium in a row.
Sorry, this is interesting. The replays we're watching here, I don't know what Stevens can do, but he let him through. He let him back through immediately after. If you look at the bottom right of your screen, the green line, he's lifting off to let him back through.
Yeah, that's true.
So
he did still get the position.
So
no,
Szymon just said. So Szymon just said Tom was probably being told by the game to let him back through. Dennehan obviously being told the same thing maybe on lap 1. That's interesting.
Since when is that Factor 2 said you had to do that?
There's a track limit update that has affected that, so it is crazy. It makes no sense, to be honest. Some of the track limits things.
Yeah, it's like slow down penalties and iRacing.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, same thing. It's been around since, what is it, last year at Spa, was it? Szymon?
Really?
Yeah. It's messed up some of our... Oh, here we go. So what are we looking at here? So this is lap 1. So Dennehan makes an illegal move off track and then lifts off, and Jan spins him round, and Tom.
And that was really set up this entire race, set things in motion.
What must have happened, so that makes sense now. So what must have happened is Jake must have got that alert on his screen and panicked about it. You've got like 10 seconds to lift off, by the way. So he could have easily done it on the start-finish straight in a safe manner, but he must have panicked, lifted off the throttle, and got smashed by Jan from behind. And of course, as soon as that happens, it's chaos. So that'll be an interesting one to review. I think Jake, obviously, you know, as he goes off track there and rejoins, he's rejoining into the side of Tom and then lifts off. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one on the first lap of the race, you know.
Anyway, let's not lose sight of what happened here. Anne Maguire has won the race from Jan Grampus after a thrilling conclusion. Luke Maguire was third, Jake Dennehan fourth. My driver probably Tom Stevens, because after being in the barriers on lap 1, he's managed to recover to be a very good drive. Carlos Martin sixth in just his second GPWC Superleague race. He's definitely got to be a contender for that award as well. And it's Matthew Williams, Jakob Pekalalu, Mark Schluter and Ruben Machete. All of those drivers very impressive today. And to be honest, that group of Steam stands today, very clean driving. I admit, there haven't been a lot of drivers I've been impressed with today, because unfortunately we did have a few incidents throughout the course of the race. But that group of drivers there did all that they could. Matthias Moos P11, then it's Tomasz Fock, Giuseppe Lino, Philip Pushke, Fabian Jacek, scores the last point there for Green Stripes. Tiger Hume and Justin van der Smissen just got out. Well done to Van der Smissen for finishing his very first Superleague race, despite everything that happened to him, including a disconnect, so he's involved in shit. And then unfortunately we had a whole 50 through a mixture of collision and disconnections and all of the like. Hasn't been the cleanest of races, hasn't been the best of, or the most happy of races for a lot of drivers, but my goodness was it exciting, and despite being such a long time, it's given us plenty to talk about. Apparently we've got one more replay to see. That's queued up for us here.
Yep, I'd be interested to see what. Here we go. So Hygo Poom. Is this the last lap?
Looks like Poom and Pushke have had a collision on the last. So
same again. Yeah. Same again. You just can't run people wide there. Honestly, it's that curb is death, and quite frankly, Poom deserved more room. But there we go. Let's see what happens here. Oh, there's more nonsense apparently. This is supposed. I mean, I have to say. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Just right on the edge. That one's
okay. I have a feeling there's more, because with my first case ended up gaining a couple of places over Poom here. So I think Poom is lucky to see what happens into the final corner. Final turn, right?
No, that's okay. That's the rest of that's all right. So what I would say though is having commentated most of the season. Oh, here we go.
It must look that wasn't fun. What I'm confused about is that Shitzik ended up finishing between the two that was leading the last point. So yeah, it must be more to that story. But, anyway, let's cut away from that. My apologies. What were you saying, Toby?
Well, a couple of things. So obviously we've got the live standings on screen now, so you can see Dennehan finishing just that one position ahead of Tom. It still takes the fight through to the final 3 rounds. You know, that's pending obviously any post-race pens, but personally I would say that those two have been the class of the field. Obviously, 5 points in it. It's very tight, and it's going to be an exciting finish to the championship. The second thing I would say, wasn't the cleanest race to commentate on. You know, I've been watching Superlights, you know, commentating on Superlights this season, and that hasn't been the best. But this certainly was a little bit below par as Super League standards go. But a decent race to watch, and you know, we had a good battle for the lead as well. So,
and just 3 races to go now to decide this Super League Championship. So it's getting exciting. There's plenty more to come here. So don't go. Well, I say don't go anywhere, but you're not going to be waiting here in front of your computer screen for 2 weeks. You know what I mean. Make sure you're here.
Oh, Caitlin, we've lost you. Sorry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for me anyway. I don't know if it was the same for you, Szymon, but it was a little bit laggy. So, yes. So Hopefully, Caitlin can get her microphone sorted out. But yeah, just 3 rounds left, and of course, 2nd November is the final race of the season at Interlagos in Brazil. We do have some people waiting for interviews, though, Caitlin, and hopefully you have your mic sorted now. So perhaps you'd like to drag our first victim into the broadcast room. Ooh, have we lost Caitlin altogether? I will do the honours. I'd like to start with Mr. Jan Grankfist, if we can. Jan.
Hello.
So close. Very, very close. Obviously, the 2 converging strategies coming to fruition in the last few laps, but you must be gutted not to quite get over the line there.
Yeah, I mean, in the back of my head, I always had that Jake incident. I wasn't quite sure what happened there at first, but apparently he was trying to slow down as he got a track cut overtake or something. And yeah, I'm fairly happy with the P2, to be honest. I know the win could have been there had I had some more cleaner moments with my rivals. Luke definitely putting on a very harsh fight there, but I'm quite happy still.
Yeah, I mean, both Luke and Adam, I think particularly Adam in that final couple of laps, he didn't give you enough racing room. But then obviously let you back through. It's one of those swings and roundabouts, isn't it? But that curb, you can't push people wide onto the curb. I said it in the broadcast. I don't know what Adam was doing, really. He just ran into the side of you and pushed you that bit wide. And then, of course, when he made the move, you gave him racing room. So you were definitely the cleaner of the 2 in that final stint. But, yeah, I mean, do you feel aggrieved by that? Or are you okay with how that turned out?
Well, yeah, I'm okay with it. I try not to take it too seriously anymore. These things, they do happen. And I did say to my mates over on Discord, because I saw Luke do it twice on me on the exact same corner, and then once Adam did the exact same thing, I was saying, damn, this must be the Maguire special happening to turn 5 or whatnot. But yeah, I'm not too fussed about it. I mean, that's racing. You always want to get the best out of your opponent, but sometimes you end up pushing too much. And yeah, I tried my best, obviously, to leave as much room now, and I'm fairly satisfied with it, how I raced.
Yeah, you should be. I mean, obviously you had loads of pace here today. Yeah, fantastic result in the end. You looking forward to the next round? I think we've got, is it Japan next? I believe so. So it should be a good one at Japan. Is that a good track for you?
Oh yeah, Suzuka's definitely one of my favourites. So actually, finally looking forward to a track. I was going to say Singapore's normally been one of my weakest tracks, but yeah, straight out to Suzuka next, and hopefully we can get that win at some point.
Excellent. I think you deserve it, to be honest. On the balance of this season, you've definitely been right up there multiple times. So yeah, be good to see you on the top step, to be honest. And I know we've had a couple of reporting differences and stuff, but honestly, you're a great guy, and it's good to see you P2 and hopefully P1 next time round. Yeah,
thanks very much, man. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, dude. Take it easy.
Yep.
So that was Jan Grankfist. We have lost completely Caitlin Penny, so I will speak to let's speak to Luke Maguire next, who was P3 in the end. Here is Luke Maguire mid conversation. How you doing, Luke? You okay?
Yeah, all good.
So we just heard from Jan. Of course, there was some interesting moves throughout the race. Firstly, I want to know what your thoughts on the strategy was.
Yeah, ironic, eh? Yeah, strategy was good. I don't think I would have made 3 stops work because I just didn't have the tire wear for it. But yeah, in our simulations, the 4th stop was a bit quicker, but I think in the race it played out that we did get caught up in a bit too much traffic. But for me, I think B3 was a maximum today. I don't think I had the pace on Jan, and I don't think I had the pace on Adam. So yeah, happy to get the podium and pick up the scraps from the other guys messing up, I guess, because I feel like, yeah, this is probably a bit more up the grid than I should have been. So I'm happy enough.
I think you put a lot of effort into this round as well, and it shows in the pace and the result. Obviously, your qualifying wasn't quite as good, and that maybe put you a little bit on the back foot in that first stint?
Yeah, I mean, it quickly rectified by getting into P2 from that incident with Jan and Tom. But yeah, I think that's the only reason why the four stop kind of worked for us, because if we would have been P5 and stuck in the train and probably not got in front to have some clear air to overtake some cars. So yeah, quality didn't go great, but yeah, it wouldn't have influenced the race.
That's fair. Now, look, you told me earlier, definitely for the first time, that you're not going to be racing at Japan. Is that the case?
Definitely not the first time, but yeah, I won't be here at Japan, so hopefully we get someone good in to keep our points tally up against Edge.
Well, I don't know about good. We've got probably Chris Butcher coming in, but nevertheless.
All right, never mind.
But yeah, but Luke, congratulations, mate, P3, and well done.
Yeah, thank you, Toby, and thanks to Chris and yourself for helping us get this result. Cheers.
Oh, no drama. And Tom Ely, of course, always thank you.
And Tom Ely, yeah.
Well done, well done. A nice one, Luke. Thank you. We've got somehow Alex Lahoo in the interview chat. Wasn't racing. We've got Chris Butcher and Jukka-Pekka Lalu. I'm going to speak to Mr. Lalu first. So let's give that a go. So, hello, Jukka-Pekka. How's it going?
Hello.
How you doing? I saw you lingering in the interview room. I just want to know. Obviously, you started on the kind of counter strategy, hard, medium, and finished P8. That's pretty decent from where you started. A few times this season, it's been kind of you've qualified a little bit outside the top 10. Is that just the setup, or just how you're just not? What is the reason for that?
Well, the reason is that on raw pace, I'm slower than most of the others. That's the issue there. But because race is, almost 1.5 hours everywhere, that's a long time to make up the time on other areas than raw pace. So that's the secret for me being better on the races than on qualifyings, really.
And of course, we saw there were certain races. I mean, obviously, Mexico last year springs to mind, where you were, very competitive, and sometimes it does work in your favour when you do those longer runs. How do you feel about the rest of the season? Obviously, Super Venturi pretty much guaranteed to be P3 in the standings now. What's the plan? I mean, next season, obviously, you want to kick on a bit. Are you looking at that P3 in the standings, hoping next season that can be a little bit higher?
Yeah, of course. If next season is going to happen, then yes. But I don't know anything what is going to happen in terms of next season yet. I'm fully focusing only on this season, and obviously for the last 3 races. It's 3 races left, right?
Yep.
Yeah, my only plan is just trying to do as well as I can, and hope that I can. I mean, it would be nice if I can finish inside top 5 in the driver standings, but if that is not going to happen, then it is what it is, I guess.
Well, you're very close. I mean, you're only a few points back of P4, which would be, frankly, a good achievement in your first season, full season in Super League. So you've been driving very well and quietly getting the results. Particularly that P2 at Silverstone was very impressive. So yeah, keep it up. I honestly, I think you're a top driver. So it's nice to see you doing well, and thanks for coming for an interview.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I do want to speak to Adam Maguire, who's finally made his way into the interview room, waiting for an interview. So, Mr. Maguire, congratulations on your victory. Well done. Obviously worked out for you on lap 1, but the strategy meant that you could catch Jan, I suppose, in that final stint, and it happened.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, it was quite hard to catch Jan in the last stint. I was probably pushing a bit too hard, and I would say my rear tires were probably in worse shape than his at the end. So I kind of just dumped my PTP and sent it around the outside, and thank God he gave me racing room. And it was just pushed until the end there, and hopefully hold him off.
Yeah. you were involved in a couple of incidents throughout the race. To be honest, it wasn't completely smooth sailing. There was one with Pushka, and there was one with Schluter, and of course in that final stint as well with Jan. It's just your nature, I suppose, just to be aggressive. And obviously you gave the position back to Jan. Do you think it was on the edge, or?
No, I definitely ran him wide, or it was kind of just not happening. Maybe it was a bit of a desperate attempt. But yeah, I don't know. I felt I had to be quite aggressive to get by a few people today, and maybe it was a bit over the line. I actually forget what the Pushka incident was, but with Schluter, I was clearly going on the inside, and he just turned across on me. And I mean, he feels like it's my fault, but sure, we'll see in the protest.
I have to say on that was the turn one, wasn't it? I think he did definitely turn across you in that one.
Well, I had no racing room. Or like, do I have to go over the curb and like go airborne? Like, I've nowhere to go. So I mean, he can cry all he wants. I don't care.
God. Well, thank you for your honest assessment of that one. So moving forward, obviously, you had the pace today, put a lot of effort in, and obviously, it shows in the results. So moving forwards, obviously we've got 3 rounds left, and you've had 2 victories this season. Do you think you can get another one?
It depends if the car stays in the mid pack with the upgrades. But yeah, if I put in as much effort as I did for this race, I think I can definitely get back up there again.
I mean, you're a former champion. We know you're very good. So it definitely shows here at Singapore, and it was in the end a deserved victory, I would say. So thank you and well done, Adam.
Yeah, thanks very much. Cheers.
You're welcome. That was Adam Maguire. Caitlin, do we have you back now?
Yes, you do indeed. My apologies about that. It's not that I don't like interviews, it's that apparently my internet doesn't. So my apologies. Yeah, you did a good job there, though.
Thanks. It's no drama. You're still a little robotic, but nevertheless, it lasted the whole race. You managed to survive until the final lap.
Yeah,
so that's good
true,
news.
isn't it?
So yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll round it out from here if that's okay. But thank you all very much for watching. Make sure you keep an eye out on GPVWC and our YouTube channel for our upcoming races. Next Tuesday, we have Formula Sprint 2, as always. And then on Thursday, we have Formula Sprint 1. And then, of course, the Tuesday after that, we have Super Late, followed, of course, by the main Super League show from the Japanese Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time. All of those will start at 7:30 UK time, as always. And you really won't want to miss those because, especially with Super League, just 5 points separate the championship leaders come into the final round. We've got plenty more to come as well. We've got a championship fight still to be decided in both FS1 and FS2. I think both could be determined at the next race or next round, if I'm not very much mistaken. And then, of course, Super League has the closest championship of all. Thank you all very much for watching. Thank you for your funny comments in the YouTube chat. It's been a very active day for the YouTube chat. And thank you as well, Toby, for joining me in the commentary.
You're most welcome. I had a nice time.
And of course, Szymon and Frelik for providing you with all of the cameras and the actual stream that you're watching now. Thank you guys, and have a good evening. See you next time.